What's up, she slut? So just as a side note, my power actually went out a couple hours ago and came back on a little bit later. So there's always a chance that I might lose power during this. Too much New Year's celebration? Are you doing something else for New Year's? I kind of figured you wouldn't be too worried about it. I never am, but if I get the gumption to concentrate on too much. Alright, looks like She's Loves bailing. That's fine. We're not doing it for him. We're not doing it for the haters. It's just you and me, brother. And one mystery person. One anonymous. But that's fun. Alright, I'm gonna give you a call.
Yep.
Hey, what's up?
How's it going?
Could be better. I don't know if you heard me mention it before, but my power went out a while back. So
Yeah.
I could lose power during this. Wouldn't be surprising.
Be unfortunate.
It'd be whatever. I could always do this later.
Yeah.
Anyway, Phoenotopia, how did you even find this game?
Uh, I think through like the Metroidvania tag on Steam. Like
Really?
I just was browsing and I just, I periodically go check upcoming game releases or whatever and check the tags and
Yeah.
go like, is this a Jumander type game? And does it look like shit or not? And then I know it's really a game.
So I don't know what your mic setup is, but you're kind of like going in and out, like really loud and
Oh,
then
hold
really
on.
quick.
Let me just move my mic a little closer. How's that sound?
That sounds better.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, you know, I was actually surprised that I didn't see this on Steam. Because usually, like, as much shit as we give, like, Steam's recommendations, where it's like, oh, you've played this other first person game, you should try out Nekoparka or Nekopara.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's usually pretty good for me as far as like recommending things that I would actually be interested in or are related to things that I'm actually playing. And this never came up.
Yeah. I mean, I think it does well. It does well for me with like Metroidvania games, but then it'll also look at something like, wow, you've played a lot of Slay the Spire. You'll like one of these 55,000 other deck builder ones. I'm like, I don't want any of the other. Like, get that out of my feed.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so I actually found this when it went on sale on the Switch. I was just looking at random shit that was on sale on
Oh,
Switch,
okay.
and it popped up and was like $10. I was like, oh, that actually looks kind of interesting. And I figured it
Yeah.
was a Switch exclusive because I'd never heard of it before. And then once I started playing it a little bit, I looked it up and I was like, oh, this is actually on Steam. Like, how have I never seen this before?
Yeah, yeah, no, when did I play it? I might have technically played it in 2021. I'd have to look at my Steam library to see when I played it. Phoenotopia. I spell it. Yeah, I technically played it in 2021. So let's put that on Calixtus's 2021 games of the year roundup.
Yeah. Just roll back to that one.
Yeah. No, I don't. If I did the roundup, it would have been on there. I really liked it.
Yeah. It was excellent. I was really blown away by it.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently it's actually like a re-release or remake or something of I think it was like an actual Flash game that the developer had made called just Phoenotopia.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I found that out looking it up. I haven't really looked at the original game in any way because
Yeah, you
apparently
don't know if it's like a full-on remake or just sort of like a slight remaster. Not any of that.
I'm not sure. I get the impression that it was pretty substantial, but also basically the same type of game. Uh,
Okay.
just because when you when you go to look up certain things that are in this game, like things that I couldn't figure out after I had beaten it,
Yeah.
there are some like items and stuff that are new, and some that are just in different places or have different quests related to them.
Oh, all right.
So I'm sure it was a similar type of game, but I'd also never heard of that one either.
Yeah, I definitely hadn't heard of it via Flash. I want to say I saw it at the same time I saw the one you play like the mechanic chick, like she has like a big wrench. I'm trying to think of what that's called.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that was a while ago.
Yeah, I want to say I saw it like at the same time as that, and I was like waffling between which of them I would buy.
Iconoclast.
Iconoclast, yes. And then I said, well, I did the dangerous like dive into Steam reviews and tried to parse out like actual facts out of the Steam reviews. And was like, this sounds better.
Yeah.
Ended up buying it.
Yeah.
And I bought Iconoclast later on, like a couple hours before being like, yeah, I'm fine. I don't really care to finish this.
Right. Yeah, I wasn't super impressed. Iconoclast had some really good bits, but it also had just like really bad pacing. I hate to bug you again, but your mic is still doing that thing where it like
What?
pops in like super loud and then you go super quiet. I don't know if it's like some kind of auto ducking.
Am I just doing it to myself, maybe?
It might actually be you're not picking up your correct mic on Steam's voice settings.
Could be.
It might be defaulting to something else if you want to take a look at that.
Let me see. Let's see. Okay, 1 second.
I wouldn't bitch about it if it was just low quality, but I'm like actually missing some things that you're saying.
Jumander was the coolest guy ever.
It's gotta be super high quality, man.
All right, let me take a look at this.
2 or 3 people may actually listen to this long after we're both dead.
Oh my god. Yeah, this is like the machine civilization trying to figure out who this prolific human gamer was of the precursor race.
Yeah, to try and recreate
this sidekick. Yeah, exactly. Recreate the AI simulation to play the ultimate game or something. I don't know.
And then they accidentally get the wires crossed and they remake me combined with like Car Wash and Spambot.
Ah, yes. A Metroidvania. This will be great.
Yes.
We're gonna do that. Let's see. Broadcasting. I don't remember where to even do this at.
What, your voice settings?
Surely I can do it right on the call. Yes, there we go.
I don't know. We might have to restart the call. That's fine. Was I right? Was I right about what the problem was? We'll find out. Because Calixtus has gone totally quiet.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Does this sound better?
It sounds better, but I'm not sure, so why don't you just, like, start shooting off at the hip about Phoenotopia and what you like about it?
Well, so I mean, I liked obviously the most obvious thing. Like, it's a love letter to Zelda 2 in a lot of ways, but unlike Zelda 2, I had fun playing it.
Yeah.
Zelda 2 is a real dick punch constantly. I did think that, for better or for worse, some of the puzzles were tuned like crazy hard, where I was really like hitting my head against them and going like, I just don't get what the clue is that I'm supposed to have. And there was definitely a couple points where later I kind of went around and was like, I want to get as close to 100% in this game now that I'm sort of done with the main story. And I went back and did puzzles and went, are you for fucking real?
Yeah.
About like that I was supposed to pick this up. It's like, yeah, 2 screens over, you were supposed to check the weather vane that had the like PlayStation controller symbols under the chicken. And then,
I love that puzzle.
Yeah, I'm like, you motherfucker. I mean, I thought it was great, but I was so pissed. I'm like, how, I totally. Usually the clues are there in the room or like one room away.
No, usually the clues are so brain dead that you don't even consciously realize that you're solving a puzzle. You're just plugging shapes into shaped holes.
Well, I had 1 second. I'm gonna grab it. 1 moment.
The mic sounds good, by the way.
I think it's right here. I have a notebook that I keep half the time it has work stuff in it and half the time it has like gaming puzzle notes in it.
Yeah, same.
So I think this is...
in fact, I have my notebook with my notes on this game right here.
These are notes from something else. It's bullshit. I swear I had like pages upon pages of notes for doing some of the puzzles, which I like. Like, I like when a game forces me to get a piece of paper out. But, the flip side is you should know going into, and that was, having read the Steam reviews, I knew going into it, like, you should know going into it that, I kind of want to say this is the notes from the puzzle.
It's a step above, it's a higher reading level than a Zelda game.
Right, yeah, it's not tuned for, Zelda 2 came out when I was like,
well,
I don't know.
Forget Zelda 2, because Zelda 2's not tuned at all. It's just a poorly slapped together game. But like a modern Zelda is tuned for 6 to 8, maybe.
Yeah, something like that.
Being able to complete it and being able to do most of the optional content.
When you play a modern Zelda, and you're 12 and just crushing puzzles because of Zelda's impeccable design for the feeling it gives you when you complete a puzzle, you will still feel very smart. Whereas there were puzzles where I was like, I might be stupid. I'm doing this. I'm not getting it. I may, in fact, be much stupider than I thought I was. And then when you do finally get it, there were a lot of moments for me with solving the puzzles where I went, you motherfucker. There were plenty of puzzles, like you said, that were simplistic, and it was like on the wall, blank, square, blank, blank, triangle, blank, and you're like, okay, I just got to fill in these. That's fine. But
it does enough of raising the requirement as far as lateral thinking and paying attention that I feel like it draws out that same feeling you got at like 12 crushing Zelda puzzles and getting the nice feedback at like 20 something or 30 something.
Right, but what Zelda does better than Phoenotopia is Zelda's puzzles, I mean, because they're simpler, because you don't have to sit down and write something in a notebook sometimes, they never just completely bring the game to like a standstill. And so there were some times where I thought it was frustrating that the flow of the game was so heavily interrupted because like my my brain would not allow me to just walk away from like that puzzle that I invested that much time in. I couldn't be like, it's not critical I do this. It's just going to be, I don't even remember half the time the rewards of the puzzles were like,
It's like a
nothing.
hard piece.
Yeah. If that, like, that's a good reward. I mean, I feel like some of the times the puzzles were like, you got some money,
Not too often, but
so I think that's great that those puzzles are so hard, but it also definitely, for me, there were times where I'm like, I could have beaten this game like 3 times over if I just ignored like these certain puzzles.
well,
but
now
no,
you
I mean,
can.
no, I'd have to find my original notes so I can do those puzzles. If I played it again, I would be redoing every one of those puzzles at this point. Like I don't remember. 2021. That was 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that flow, like, you should be aware going into it, playing it, like that it has that kind of flow or lack thereof, because of the frequency you're doing the puzzles. So it's kind of
it's sort of
broad
like,
thoughts.
It's sort of like in Crosscode. I think Crosscode's an amazing game, but going into it, you need to know that the dungeons are grueling, like extremely long. And if you're not down for that, then you're not going to enjoy yourself in Crosscode.
Well, that's good to know because I still haven't played Crosscode.
I highly recommend it.
I was about to say, I'm sure that'll come with a recommendation about that.
Yeah.
See the clips you're playing here.
I'm looking at my notes from Phoenotopia. It's actually kind of tough because they're mixed in with my notes on Tunic, which...
Another game where I don't think as often
notes down.
Yeah, I didn't do it as often, and I think that, I mean, we're not here to talk about Tunic, but it is, but as a point of comparison, like Tunic, you don't.
There's less actual game to Tunic, and the actual game it does have is less fun.
Right. I mean, I think I could see myself going back and playing Phoenotopia again, but I don't see myself doing that with Tunic because, like, that core concept of how much in Tunic is based around
not knowing what you're doing.
Yeah, you not knowing about inputs and like knowing that if you just hold that one button and channel, like, you could do that and you would skip a whole bunch of the game. And for some people, they're like, that's cool that I could go back and do it, and I'll do that next time. And that's not of interest to me because I don't think you'd get any of the joy of like that is present in Tunic from doing that. Whereas Phoenotopia, there's so many puzzles. I mean, unless you go back to your puzzle notebook, you're gonna be redoing those. You might have a clue again, like the weather vane one, where I would go, okay, it's in the barn. Like, I could picture it. Like, okay, It's in the barn. I go outside. I look at the vein. Up is triangle. Down is circle. Fine. So yeah, I mean, I think just they're very different in that way of like what can actually be replayed. This was also tuned, I thought, a little harder than I would have expected, just in terms of the actual like combat. Like you have in the montage that boss in the tower, in the windmill city, and I had to do that fight a number of times. I mean, just to get the rhythm down. And I know I'm just not I'm not a pro gamer by any means, like, but I wasn't expecting to have to try that hard.
I'm not either, but there were definitely bosses that took me several attempts that were just, and it wasn't something where it was like, oh, there's a gimmick here that I didn't understand. They were genuinely difficult bosses, even once you know what you're doing.
Yeah, once you know the gimmick, they're still hard. I mean, I felt that way even about the mech in the laboratory, where it's like, okay, the gimmick is you need to baseball bat the stun grenade.
Yeah.
And even that, it's not there's zero mechanical like skill to it. There is mechanical skill. Like you still have to actually be able to do it.
Well, here's an interesting point. I actually found that boss very easy because I had run into another mech of the same build somewhere else doing like optional stuff.
Oh,
And so
okay.
I had already beat my head against it and been like, can I even fucking do this? And then realized that I could baseball bat the stun grenades back and stun it and wail on it. And so when I found that guy, or when I fought that guy as part of a story boss, I was like, oh, here we go. I know how to deal with this. And just steamrolled it. And I think the fact that that was possible is one of the reasons why this is like a step above an actual Zelda game, like an actual modern Zelda game, at least for the caliber of gamer that we are.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciated to that point, right? Like I appreciated being mechanically challenged by this game, being mentally challenged by this game, intellectually challenged. You know what? No way.
Emotionally challenged.
But for real with them, I mean, I actually like the story in the game. You know, it got went maybe just a tiny bit off the rails towards the end, but overall, I like the story. Yeah, a little bit anime, a little bit country, a little bit anime. No,
it is a little bit country.
Yeah, like I
you do a lot of fishing.
And you know what? I enjoyed the fishing in this game. It's not always a guarantee that I'll like fishing in a video game, but I thought it was great. Fine. Perfectly serviceable. Again, you know, worst case scenario, you're beating your head against a puzzle. Maybe it's just time to go fishing for a bit.
Yeah.
But it never actually works out that way. I don't know if like developers go, I'll put a fishing mini game in, and when they're frustrated, they'll go fish. And it's like, no, you don't know your core audience. We're gonna
they'll and fish until they're frustrated.
Yeah, we'll fish until we're done with fishing, and we go check, and the boxes check that I have completed the fishing in the game. Yeah, God, I love the tower. I thought this in the montage here, the tower, it was just such a fun dungeon, and the boss being, you know, to be mechanically challenging, it was very satisfying when you really got everything down with him, and you were just like, you know, I was just like moving straight to where he was going to be next, and just, you know, pegging him with arrows or whatever I was doing. I mean,
what did
did not. Oh, go ahead.
What did you think of the sub weapons?
I liked them. I'm trying to think, you know, I mean, there's the crossbow was actually useful. I'm trying to remember what else there was.
The spear.
Spear.
The one that sticks to walls and also has the upgrade where it can explode.
Man, I like the stick to, because I think I used the spear.
You have
to create a
ledge.
To create a ledge for the boss, right? Like that I could bum rush him with the bat for the tower.
Right.
I think that's right. Yeah. I mean, I think you're right. The game asks you not only to use them for the obligatory puzzles, but to like get good at switching to them in combat and using them, which I thought was great.
Yeah. Did you ever get any of the optional like buff spells and the gun, the laser gun?
Gotta think about that. The buff spells. Again, you're dealing with 2021 gamer brain here. I might have to remind myself really quickly.
You might have to like drop some shrooms or something, get yourself into the same headspace you were back in 2021.
It would have been just beer. It's just always beer. If I drink enough beer, I'll certainly remember all the stuff that beer killed off brain wise.
I think that's how that works.
Tools. Yeah. Let me look at this really quick and remind myself. Combat tools, yes, right? Slingshot, you don't really use that because you have the crossbow.
Well, you do use it. You do use it because the projectiles sometimes rebound, and also.
I used it only for. I don't think I used slingshot in combat almost ever. I think I was doing double crossbow like all the time. Cobalt blaster, right? And I thought I seem to recall that feeling like that was such a shitty weapon. But you're not talking about that, right? You're not talking about the Cobalt Blaster, because I thought that was just right from the boss.
No, you don't get it right from the boss. I think you have to climb up to the top later.
I did get it. I know I got that. I remember that. I think I was disappointed by it. I was like, I'll just stick with the double crossbow because it's so good.
Yeah, I think the problem with the blaster is, if I remember correctly, it does like an AoE, but it can hurt you with the splash. I don't remember.
Yeah, and I think I was very off put by that. And then the buffs were those. Did you do those like by playing songs?
Yeah, the flute.
Yeah. No, I thought that was good. I mean, you getting good at the flute feels good. It's very satisfying.
It's the ocarina. It's just,
but it's not like the ocarina when you use it's mapped to buttons, and this was like you were moving a thing around, if I remember. Like you move down and press the play button.
Yeah.
So it's like
how much of a difference is it? Really, the main difference really is that it's actually got different symbols. So instead of having like 4 yellow C buttons that just have a different shape drawn on them, you have a shape and a color assigned to each note and direction.
Right, but you don't have arrows that just go like, it's up, down, left, right.
Yeah.
It's red, yellow, purple, and I think it took me quite a while to internalize mapping those to the cardinal directions plus the center.
Yeah.
So it felt good once I had that really well internalized, and then knew like, okay, I'm gonna do the battle thing and get the attack boost. I'm remembering as we go. Plus, I'm looking at the wiki to remind myself of it. No, I liked it. I mean, I thought, I'm looking at the mini games and remembering the free running challenge, which I think I
gave up on
some of that.
I gave up.
I did them all, but they were the last one in the
Windmill Village.
No, the last one was in the in like the ruined area.
I didn't get that.
The like bit. That so you did, the windmill one was like I think especially bad, and then the last one you kind of knew what you were dealing with it being bad, and so it was fine. But yeah, I mean, I like I said, I tried to 100% it. I did not do the optional secret boss, super boss. I read about it, and everything I read about it told me that I would be very unhappy spending the time working on it.
Is it like Demon's Crest, where you need to get 100% to fight it?
Yeah, I want to say you literally have to have like all the heart containers.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. It's like at the top of the tower where it's like, oh, you don't have enough power to face this or whatever.
Yeah, not the final dungeon tower, not the Windmill Town tower. Yeah, up there. That's a super boss, and it's apparently just quite awful. Everything I read said it was awful, and I was like, do I really want to go and like I'm gonna have to look up all the heart rubies that I missed and stuff, and I thought that was, so I think I probably got 20 of the 23, and I didn't want to do that. I was good. I was good with the ending of the game and the amount I did.
Yeah, the ending's kind of weird. It's kind of not great ending. It's like a little bit of a cliffhanger, maybe a sequel hook, and it's just kind of a letdown after everything you do, because it's such a long game. You'd think that it would build up to something bigger, but it doesn't.
Well, it's like, I mean, in some ways, I think of it, from what I remember of it being sort of like the ending of the first Matrix movie.
Yeah.
Where you're like, well, now what's going to happen? Except I don't think there's a Phoenotopia 2 coming, and it is more, as you said, kind of a wet fart as opposed to being exciting
Yeah, it's not
like
terrible.
it is in the Matrix.
It's not terrible, but it's also just not a very appropriate ending for this kind of game.
Yeah, no, I mean this game has some moments that really evoke like emotion, and them going like really hard on an anime cliffhanger, whatever, is not. It didn't feel right. I mean, that's kind of what I was saying earlier. Like it started to feel like it was going off the rails with the main story direction, but I liked all the lore they were presenting, so it's kind of a mixed bag.
Well, and more than that, the game is genuinely really charming. Just in general, one thing I thought was really surprising was how much of the incidental writing was actually really good and worth like sitting there and reading through and going around and talking to NPCs.
Yeah.
A lot of genuinely good jokes, a lot of good characters, a lot of like surprisingly good detailed animations for the kind of small character models.
Yeah, there's lots of little like nuanced emotes and things they're doing to really sell you on that. And I mean, even it would normally be very off-putting to me, or I would be like, I don't know if I want to keep doing this. When you go to the desert town and you have to do like the quests with like the orphan kids.
Yeah.
But the fact that they made it like stomachable, is a testament to the skill in the writing that's present. So yeah, I'm with you on that.
Yeah, I think probably my favorite detail is the fact that there's a shop that all it does is it changes your hair color.
Yeah.
And you need it for, I believe, a main quest. At some point, but you can also just go and do it whenever you want if you don't want to have pink hair.
Yeah, I think I ended up, you do the quest, you get your hair dyed like brown or something to pass for her sister, maybe. I want to say that's what the deal was.
Yeah.
And then
well, it's actually really funny because the quest chain is you have to buy a bottle of wine to bribe a guard. But you're too young to buy alcohol, obviously. So
that's right.
You go to your older sister in quotes, because you're just from the same orphanage. But and she's like, she's a not a slave, but an indentured servant
of the palace in the desert.
And you're like, hey, you're over 18, right? Can I see your ID? And she's like, yeah, fine. And gives
and then you go dye your hair. Yeah. I ended up dyeing my hair purple for the rest of the game because I just thought purple hair looks cool.
I went with red for the most part. I thought that looked pretty good. I thought it looked good. What? No, I thought it was neat because you also got the different jacket colors, much like in Zelda when you get different tunics.
You got the different baseball bats, the different jackets. I mean, it's good. And doesn't the color of the baseball bat animation changes? I thought with the different baseball bats too. Yeah. Even though it's a swipe and you're like, would you really see the color? But no, they went for it.
Yeah, it was
I thought that I kept thinking the game, there was like a lot of points where I was like, okay, so this is like probably the whole game, and then the game sort of kept going, or looking at an area and being like, okay, it's just this, and then finding a whole other part to the area.
Right.
Reasons to go back. There's a reason or like stuff to do back at the first dungeon, much later in the game. Like, that's cool. I love that shit.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that's Metroidvania, but I love it.
Well, and it also means that there's a point to unlocking the fast travel, and they even do some really interesting things where, like, obviously if you want to grind for money, you can just go kill stuff and hope it drops money. But there's also this really neat mechanic where a lot of the towns have somebody who is like, oh, by the way, if you have any excess, blah blah blah, I'll take it off your hands for a good price. And it's usually something that comes from a prior area. So like in the in the desert town, you have somebody who wants like the berries that drop constantly in the forest that you start the game in.
Yeah.
Which is on a different landmass. So if you really want to, you can like empty your inventory and go like stock up and do like a trading run, which I thought was really cute.
It is cute. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of these little like details I'm being reminded of. The desert temple boss, which was, I think, probably the easiest boss in the game. I don't know.
I died to it a couple times.
I died to it a couple times, but I thought like in terms of, hey, once you know like the mechanic and the gimmick and understand like how many times you can like hit the boss when they're stunned and what to do, because I think they had like an enrage or something they would do. It was probably like one of the least execution demanding of the boss fights.
Yeah, it's a little gimmicky. You throw the bomb in, and
we love our bomb, but throw the bomb in bosses in our Zelda likes. Gotta eat the bombs.
Hey, it's good.
But I mean, I think the only part of the game I really actively disliked is I hate stealth sections in games that are not stealth games, and so the stuff in the desert temple frustrated me. I didn't care for the stealth stuff in the desert temple.
I don't even remember the stealth stuff in the desert temple. I must be better at it than you.
Oh, that's the takeaway. there was a section, so you had to do the trials. I'm remembering this. You had to do like the trials to get like, here's a trial of bravery or something. And you like basically do an arena fight, and there's a trial of like cunning or something like that. That's like a stealth section, where you have, guys that pat back and forth. And if you fail, like you start the whole thing over, but it was like, going through 3 areas. So, I just hate introducing that to a game that isn't like built from the ground up to support stealth as like the main mechanic. So it just, I hate that shit. So that's all. It's like, it's not as bad. I think it was better done than in Zelda. I'm thinking of like when you have to sneak through like the palace garden in
Ocarina.
In Ocarina, and it's like so janky because they just drew like lines out from the
fixed camera, and it doesn't.
Yeah, it's not as bad as that by any means. It's just not my preference to have those inserted into this kind of game.
That's fair enough. It's short though. It's not a huge
section. No, they don't bring it back like 6 times and go like, yeah, now that we've introduced you to this mechanic, you have to do it a bunch. It's pretty just confined to the desert temple.
Yeah.
But yeah, I felt like when I completed the windmill town, I was like, yeah, I'm probably on like the home stretch. And then you go out into like the farm area.
Yeah.
And then there's the ruined area, that's like, damn, this shit's serious. And then you get to the actual, you get to the dome or whatever, and you get through the first part and you're like, okay, I must be really close. And then there's like the whole underwater. They really just go for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt the same way, but it was also, it never felt like, oh no, I don't want to go through this area now. Every area that I found, I was like, oh cool, here we go, this is new.
I didn't like the transition into the ruined area where you're in the spider cave.
Oh yeah.
I didn't think it was like just an absolutely horrible dungeon, but no. I was very stoked to get like the fast travel that lets you not have to pass back through there ever again.
Yeah, I wound up having to go back there because I was trying to find a secret or something, and I got lost in my revisit more than I did in the first time I went through there. Like I had apparently missed a whole boss and shit.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a branch to it that you're like, wait, what? Yeah, I remember the mini game with the slingshot. Man, those fucking the archery mini game. The archery one wasn't so bad. The slingshot one, because I avoided using the slingshot as much. I
didn't have any intuition on the art.
Yeah, that one was like, well, I mean, trial by fire forces you to get good to do it. I think it took me a lot of tries specifically on the slingshot one.
Yeah. What did you think of the cooking stuff?
Oh, I mean, I liked that that engagement, you know, with your
inventory,
health regen. Yeah, with your inventory and your health regen, consumables, and you know, I don't remember. I thought I played it. I think I played it on the hardest difficulty, but I like the difficulty system being not like health of mobs and that's it, you know, or like damage you take. That it's logical advantages or disadvantages in combat.
Yeah, it's what it mostly turned out to be when I was looking into it a little more, is that when the game originally released, there basically wasn't any difficulty options, and in order to address the fact that it is a pretty tough game and a lot of people were like, hey, I can't get through this, they added the difficulty options, which are basically all toggles to turn off some of the more difficult mechanics of the game, like to alter it from the way that it's originally intended to be played. So for example, health or healing consumables are mostly food, and so when you use them, it takes a little bit of time, like as you're actually eating them. And if you turn that difficulty toggle off, then you can just go into your menu and use them instantly in the menu while the game's paused. So that obviously makes the game easier, but it's also like if you just hate getting knocked out of using your Estus flask in combat, you can play the game like that if you want.
Yeah, it didn't feel unapproachable to me. I mean, I want to say though there was something with like you could only like if you were in combat, you couldn't add more food to your hot bar or whatever, right? Like I thought it was you basically came into the boss with a limited amount of consumables, also with playing with that difficulty. Like, yes, you had to do the animation and drink, but you also couldn't add more.
Right, so you had to actually choose what you wanted to use as your consumables.
Yeah, you had to like engage with the system more because you had to get the good food that would restore more health instead of being able to just burn through like a whole bunch of garbage.
Or, and this is interesting, there's stuff like the potato, which heals a lot of health but takes a long time to eat. Or you can cook it, and the stack of potato fries that you get in total heals the same amount of health, but each one is a lot faster to eat. So you can shove more in your mouth while you're fighting a boss or whatever.
Yep. God, there's just so many sections of this game like I kind of forgot about, and then I'm remembering with the montage, like the water area, you know, the very Japanese like water area for the ferry, and just how fucking annoying the mobs were in that area. It was like there was always like a fish underneath you, a spider, and something flying, or a spider at the same time, you know, or there were like the birds that were, there's like some flying mob that was hard to hit. That
it's the knife krill that comes.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
I mean, the game is it's. I don't know that I've ever played a game with this kind of art style that was as hard as this is. I mean, you know, I don't think like as charming and like as much sort of love and sort of softness to it, for lack of a better word coming to mind. But yeah, punishing game.
Yeah. And I think it has a pretty good difficulty curve, even though it is high at, in total or on
Yeah.
average. I don't feel like I ever hit a wall with it where I was like, oh, what the fuck? Like, unless I went completely out of my way to, like, some obviously optional area that I wasn't supposed to be in yet.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, you can get through that kind of stuff.
I mean, I just think there was a couple points, that mech boss, I remember having the thought of like, was I not supposed to come here and do this boss yet? Because I just was like feeling so stupid with the fight. And I think I did end up leaving and was able to like go to Windmill Town and do a few things there. And then like pretty quickly in Windmill Town in the main storyline, they're like, yeah, go to the lab and talk to this guy. And you're like, fuck, it's that lab.
Yeah, but then you have access to all of Windmill Town and all of
Yeah.
the things you can do there to get stronger or
Yeah, it gets
distract
stronger.
yourself.
Exactly. Like reset, be like, all right, let's give this another try. Since obviously the game, sometimes though, there's a mental game of like, oh, I've decided I think that I did something out of order and like not supposed to be fighting this yet. And then it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. And when the game's telling you, no, this is the next thing, you go like, okay, then I got to focus and I'll be able to beat it.
Yeah.
And that was the case there. But like that, and then when you first zone in to the dome, I was like, what the fuck with the mobs in the dome and like the tracking lasers or whatever. I was like, this is too much. This is too much. And then I think I went and did the bird tower, there's like a temple that's there's so many dungeons in this game, or so many areas.
Yeah, I don't remember the bird temple.
I'm thinking of it. Because there's like the village for like the monsters. Am I conflating two games?
No, yeah, I remember what you're talking about.
Yeah, and so there's like, God, I just can't think of the word
There's
for
like
it. There's
like
Tengu, like there's,
well, that I actually didn't
Harpies.
get to
There's
until after I had gotten into the dome and everything, because there's a whole trading quest chain to get in there.
Yeah, I think I stopped, got into the dome. Maybe I unlocked the teleporter and then did it. I thought I got in the dome, said fuck this, and went back through the spider cave at that point to do the trading quest, which I then I think I looked that up to figure out why I couldn't get into the Harpy village or something.
Right.
Or I might have been far enough along on it where I was like, oh, I just have to do this and I can get in. But I distinctly remember having to go back through the spider cave and back again.
But at that point you had the rocket boots, so
it's true. Yeah, it makes things a lot faster. And then I was like, oh, here's the that area. There's the Explorers Club, and I was like, oh, this is how you actually get into this room for Explorers Club in Windmill Town. We're on like the first screen of Windmill Town. There's like a really tall building that you're like, I can't make the running jump. But the game threw a lot of jumps at you. I felt that were like, if you did a pixel perfect or almost pixel perfect jump, like you could make it. Yeah. So then you just throw yourself against those. Like,
well, I spent at least like 10-15 minutes in that exact spot trying to get my spear in just the right spot so that I could get just enough distance. And I was like, oh, what the fuck? There has to be a double jump or something.
Yeah. Oh, but the game throws enough jumps at you in the tool set that you have, making you think like this might be a game that actually doesn't have any kind of like additional air movement, and you just have to get good, and then you get the rocket boots. And you're like, okay, fine. But I mean, they throw enough tools at you that it didn't beat you over the head the way other games will. A game where it puts like a stone, you're in like a stone dungeon, and then carved into the wall is a pictograph of like a double jump, and you're like,
Right.
fuck off, like I'm not that stupid. You don't
Yeah.
need to give me that. There was, I mean, a lot of stuff with like the rocket boots where you could have assumed that you just were supposed to do with a regular jump. You could have assumed that an area didn't have anything else to offer. Like I'm thinking of, there's like a fishing hole in the desert,
Mhm.
and then like way to the left on the screen
If you
is
climb
like-
up it with the spear and
there's like a divot or something, or there's like a hole in the water, and so if you're able to fall from high enough,
oh yeah.
I don't know if there was one like that where it was like, okay, if I jump I can't make it, like maybe this is just them being, you know, funny with the like way the terrain is. It's like, no, everything is always something in the game, and you just have to figure out how to get into that Explorers Club room or that, you know, Heart Ruby location or whatever.
Yeah. But like I said before, it's a higher reading level than an actual Zelda game. So
Yeah.
it's nice to play a game like this that is actually challenging still,
Yeah.
and not just like feeling like you're going through the motions and getting a little bit of applause every once in a while for being smart enough to do something pretty simple.
Yeah, it's really the Dark Souls of the Zelda 2 like genre.
Right. Well, I said I felt like this did for Zelda 2 what Link to the Past did for Zelda 1, which is it took the same basic design and just built on it and also made it better.
In like every way. I
Yeah.
mean, it's such a complete evolution. Yeah, I would agree with that 100%.
I don't know if there's anything else like real specific to get into with it.
Trying to think.
Like, if there's any like real downsides, I can't think of them. Sometimes the combat controls were a little stiff. Like I definitely attacked when I thought I had like put in the inputs to turn around and attack.
Yeah, I remember having some moments like that of it not
It's
blending
not
those
terrible.
inputs together. Yeah.
It's not terrible. It's not like constantly dropping inputs. It's just sometimes it felt a little stiff.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, I mean, just the story complaint, you know, towards the end, it's minor, but I don't think it's nothing when you want to try to really really dissect the game's faults. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I don't. Was there anything they did? So the desert town, to the west of the desert town, there was like a border with like another kingdom.
yeah.
And you end up like never going there, if I remember. Like
yeah,
they
there's
never
like a
opened the border.
checkpoint. There's like a checkpoint,
Yeah.
and there's a bunch of people staying there, and they're like, "Oh, the border's closed for now," and you're like,
Yeah, I think they
Oh, okay.
really made it a smoking gun, like that. I ended up being a little disappointed that I was never sent there. It was one of those moments where, like, despite the rest of the game me going, oh, I think I'm like probably pretty close to the end at this point. I've got to be, and then the story gets like more insane, and you go, oh, okay, there's a lot more to this. But then I kept expecting, like, okay, there's going to be something that happens with this, and there really wasn't.
Yeah, it's weird. It kind of feels like either that was going to be part of like a sequel tie-in, or that it was going to be like an expansion or something almost, which seems weird for a game like this, but that's how it felt.
Yeah, they didn't leave anything else in the world hanging like that. I didn't think, that there was like, hey, you should, to the east of like the starting region is a tribe of barbarians or whatever, like that. You go, oh, okay, that's why we don't go east, but we could. There was nothing like that. It just was like, this is a wall of mountains or whatever it was. That just is what it is. So yeah, I thought that was strange with the way the rest of the game's map was structured and your progression through it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Pretty good game.
Pretty good game.
All right.
PGG.
Is there anything on the list of already ranked stuff that you have played or have thoughts about that you think this is comparable to?
That I think like it's as good or better than something else on the list.
Right.
Yeah, I think just going down the list, I've played Hammer Fight. I was shocked when I saw that you had played it in 2022. I wasn't. I remember having really good. I enjoyed the shit out of it. Elden Ring. You can't put it at 1. That would be that would be ridiculous.
It'd be corny. I'm not a professional here. All right, I don't have to put it at 1 to keep my job.
For sure. Like, I love Nomad Survival. I don't think this game is like behind Nomad Survival in quality. I think it is far greater than Nomad Survival in quality.
Do you like that not only did I put Nomad Survival above Vampire Survivors, but I managed to squeeze 2 games between them?
I like it. The thing is it's crazy to me. Like, Vampire Survivors on the surface is like a better looking game, I think, for that style. Like, Nomad Survival's art
indisputably better looking.
Nomad Survival's art is like the worst art probably. I'd have to look at this list really closely, but I assume it's the worst art on the list or very close to it.
Probably, yeah.
But the rest of the game is so solid, and I think does more for the genre, especially after they added like the weapon evolutions and stuff.
Yeah, the class evolutions are cool.
But this game, Phoenotopia, for sure is a better game than Nomad Survival.
Yeah.
ActRaiser. God, I liked ActRaiser in the 90s.
I like the idea of ActRaiser, and that's.
I like the idea of ActRaiser a lot more than I did actually playing the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I can't say Sifu looked cool. I didn't play it. Returnal, everybody said was actually secretly good. I don't have a PS5, so I never found out.
It's secretly pretty good.
Yeah, so I don't have a good strong feeling of, well, is it better than Sifu? Well, obviously, like, Sifu and Returnal both have tremendous budgets, and the fact that, at least for Returnal, like, people had a lot of good things to say about the gameplay. I'm assuming it's not better than that, but I don't know. Yeah. But then again, you have Hammer Fight at 5, so how much does that matter? I don't know. I'd be very curious. I'd be curious to see what you think, where you rank it. But for me, there's no way you can put it like below Nomad Survival. I would have some questions about that. And frankly, the fact that Flashback is even as high as it is on the list is shocking to me, because I thought Flashback was so awful to play even in the day. I don't think I got very far in it because it was just too much of a ball buster. But
it's not awful to play.
We'll agree.
It was really cool at the time.
Oh, it was. It was very cool at the time. What they produced is something that doesn't belong with the rest of its cohort. I'll say it that way. Yeah, you can't be like, oh yeah, it's this is a cool, fun game that really did something special, but Ukulele was better than it, or Vampire Survivors. I would lose my mind.
Where is ukulele? The ukulele
Yeah.
is pretty low,
Yeah.
but above Toki Tori.
But I mean, you also put Tunic very far down, which I mean, like, I understand, and I would say it's definitely a better game than Tunic. I feel like Haiku's biggest crime is that it's just not a very long or particularly challenging game.
I also
But I
found
don't-
it very uninteresting.
Oh, all right, that's fair. I mean,
Yeah. I need something, even if it's something bad, to like think about a game after I finish it, and I don't have anything to say or think about with Haiku.
sure.
It
Teardown.
It felt
I-
pretty by the numbers. Yeah.
Like, I like the idea of Teardown, but Teardown's an engine demonstrator to me. Like, I think Tunic and Haiku are better games than Teardown. Like, Teardown to me needed the idea of like a race of a heist is the whole basis of the game for me.
Yeah.
Didn't feel like enough. Like, it wasn't substantial enough.
Well, here's how my ranking works, or at least my opinion of games and how strongly I feel about them. It's worth a lot more to be a flawed but interesting concept than to be a workman-like creation in a particular genre.
Sure,
And
that makes sense.
And that's how I felt about Haiku. That's how I felt about Transit Ruby. Metroid Dread, very similar, but worse. And then Flynn, Son of Crimson, also just a nice workman-like action beat-em-up platform.
I thought it was so boring. I played 4 or 5 hours of Flynn, and I thought it was so boring, and I put it down.
Yeah.
And that's of course the problem of, I think I had it through Game Pass or some other service, and
Yeah.
I think that's actually one of the biggest detriments to gaming is like having games you don't really own, and then you like don't really own an investment in it. Because I have put down games that I think if I owned it and had given it more of a chance, I might have found something there. But like,
Are there any in particular that you look back at and you go, oh, I kind of wish I had actually bought that?
I'm just trying to think of what I've played on Game Pass that I'm like, I'm not sure if I made the right decision to stop playing it, or like, or are you just saying games that I've played on it where I'm like, I'd like to give the developers money for this?
Either. I don't care.
Either. I don't know. I'm pretty stupid, so I tend to buy the games that I think I'll truly like.
Yeah, that is pretty stupid.
Yeah, right. Like I tend to actually pay for the games that I really that because like I'll know. I mean, yeah, I'll wait for reviews most of the time. There's certain games where I'll be like, it doesn't matter how bad it is, I'm going to buy it. Like, this is just a game you buy.
Well, so I'm a Galaxy Brain genius. So what I do is I buy a lot of games that I'm pretty sure I'll hate, and then I play through them almost to their entirety, almost all of the time. And then maybe I'll be surprised and not actually hate it, and it'll be my favorite game ever. So that way I'm a lot more surprised.
I mean, I think I'll alienate you mentioning this game because you'll be like, I don't see the appeal. But the one that comes to mind immediately, and specifically speaking about Game Pass, is Forza Horizon 4. I thought you were enjoyment out of it.
I thought you were gonna say Pentiment.
No, Forza Horizon 4, because it came at a time where I played it like during the winter, and I had bought a new car, and it was like a rear-wheel drive car, and I basically wasn't driving during the winter, so I was like missing driving, and I bought like a racing wheel, so I did a lot to make it a more enjoyable game for myself. And then I remember Horizon 5 came out, and I played on Game Pass. Don't own it. I still feel like I should buy it or should have bought it. And when Horizon 5 came out, I was like, I should just buy this outright, but I ended up playing it on Game Pass after seeing people on the forum rave about it, and was like, this does not have the same appeal or magic to me of Horizon 4, and I was actually pretty happy about not
Yeah.
paying money for that.
Why did you think that would alienate me?
Well, I just had never heard of you taking an interest in that genre. You know, like I didn't see that as being a genre of any interest to you, like racing games.
Well, it's interesting because that was one of my Christmas gifts, was Forza Horizon 5. I've actually been playing it a little bit recently. I indeed am not into racing games or cars in general.
I'm not hugely into it, but I get moments, and there's like things will. Again, I bought like a car that was specifically fun to drive, and then
what kind of car?
Basically, this was it was a Fiat 124 Spider, which incidentally is in Forza Horizon 4. So I was able to like drive the car that I bought that I then wasn't practical to drive during a winter in the Midwest.
Yeah.
And then I ended up having to get rid of that car anyway, because I'm a dad gamer and it's a 2-seat convertible, and I bought it right before I found out I was having kids. So
and your wife had a sob story or something, started crying because she wouldn't get rid of the fun car.
She and I had an arrangement where we were gonna like figure it out until the point where it didn't work. You know, that was kind of the arrangement of like she had a car that could seat kids, and I, you know, and then she would do the thing, and I would drive that car when needed. She could drive my car. It just didn't work out. Within 6 months of the kids being born, I ended up selling it and getting a different car. But I have that positive association of like, here's this fun car I have. It's literally in the video game, and I'm getting to play, like drive it at a time where I normally wouldn't. But then that game's critical flaw was they were like, hey, every 4 weeks it's a week of winter, like real time, real world. I don't know if you know that that's how it works in Horizon 4.
No.
Is you're in the British countryside or whatever, but the seasons of the game correspond literally to week-long stretches of real time.
Oh.
So the game will be like, it's summer, and it's like the most fun to drive. Everything has traction. It's like it's fall. You're like, okay, there's going to be a couple places where like I slip around. Winter, you need to drive at 3 miles an hour on every race course. It's so unfun. It's
weird.
So aggressively unfun, and it's for a week at a time. So I mean, I made it through like the first winter, you know, and I think I played through and did the seasons again. And when I hit winter a second time in the game, I quit it because I was like, this fucking sucks. I'm dealing with real life winter.
I wasn't
everybody
expecting
in the
a
world,
racing game to have like Demon's Souls world tendency.
Yeah, everybody in the world has the same seasons, you know, because they're putting you in the same races and all that. So it's like, I can imagine that if you watched a curve of like user activity on the game, that you would just see this massive spike in summer and dip in winter. Like, and that doesn't seem like a good like game as a service or whatever they're doing with it model to have like a week that you can guarantee people aren't playing the game.
Yeah, it's like you have like a cash shop where you can buy a day of sunshine.
They should, if they did it, they would have made so much more money on that game. I'm sure they did just fine on it. But I would have been like, yeah, I'll buy the week pass to like summer mode, and then I'll pay the $10. Just give me a week more of summer.
Well, I'll set your mind at ease. I know you've played it already, but Forza Horizon 5 is set in Mexico, so
yeah, I played the first few hours and I couldn't stand the banter. Not that the British banter is really any better, but they brought British characters into the game, so you don't escape it in Horizon 5.
It's worse than that. You have like 30 options for visible hearing aid in character creation, but you have exactly 2 options for voice, and they're
2 options
British.
For voice, both British. 30 options for visible hearing aid, every possible, you know, prosthesis, which is great. Accessibility is great, but every aspect. If you're going to do accessibility, you can't stop.
Give me a fucking South African dude.
Yeah, you can't stop like somewhere. You can't draw an invisible line on like representation.
Yeah.
Like we'll go this far and no further. You got to do it all if you're going to do it. So, yeah, it just didn't resonate with me. Like I thought was it the Smacktus thing that people talk about in the thread? I remember reading it before I started playing it. I was like, this is a funny joke in the thread.
Yeah.
And then to see it in the game, I was like, I'm literally off put by seeing this in the game. I'm a little disgusted.
You know what? You know what the thing that has gotten under my skin the most is?
What's that?
Sometimes when you have the in-game radio on, you know, the DJ will come on or whatever, and they'll talk about, you know, the shit that you just did, the mission you just finished, right? And talk about what an amazing driver the mysterious driver is or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's whatever. That's lame. But the thing that really irks me is sometimes they'll get on and be like, oh, here we go. It's time for a skill song. Are you ready? And then the next song that comes on will give you a multiplier to all of your tricks and shit.
They
so
had
you have
that
to keep that stupid song on.
They had that in Horizon 4, and I found a radio station that had tracks. It was like Pulse or something, like Horizon Pulse in 4, that didn't have any tracks that I particularly hated. So I just basically listened to that nonstop in the game, which then, of course, that also slowly erodes your sanity as you play the game. And you're like, these 8 songs are the only thing I'm going to hear in and out as I do shit.
Yeah, because God forbid I get this fucking trance song as my skill song.
Yeah, I didn't. It just the setting for me just doesn't do anything. Like, it's just this, like, all this scrubland. The jungles weren't fun to drive through. Like, I was more interested in driving through like Scottish, British, whatever. It's sort of an amalgam of like Britain and Scotland in Horizon 4.
Mm-hmm.
Driving through like the woods and like the quaint farms and stuff, and then they have kind of a big city that's supposed to be like Edinburgh or whatever. That it's good. Like, the setting did way more for me than Mexico. You know, I'm like, yes, it's great. There's a volcano or whatever in a snowy area, but I don't want to drive my supercar through like scrublands. It's shitty. Yeah.
Well, all right. Let's see. Was there anything else that you played on Game Pass that you thought was like, maybe this would have been, I would have gotten more into this otherwise?
Yeah, if it wasn't a Game Pass game, there were. God, I burned through like a bunch of them. Man, can I like see my Game Pass history? You know, my Steam replay was good enough to show me the stuff I played there, whereas, I played a good bit of Everspace 2 on Game Pass, but then it felt like I didn't see the game really evolving from there. You know, and that's always like
it's still in early access or something.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's still in early access. But I'm just saying, like, I didn't, go through everything that was available to play of it. Like, there's, a main story quest line, but it felt like I got to a certain point and I'm like, well, let's see what new ships are available to buy. And it's like the realization that, all of the new ships are like numerical advancements of existing ships. So they don't really change the way you play. They just numbers go up kind of thing.
Right.
And so that immediately turned me cold to it. Project Wingman, I got because I saw you could like hack it to do, not hack it, but there's like things you can do to enable a launch mode to play it in VR.
Oh yeah,
which sounded awesome.
I played it all in VR.
And what I found after playing 2, maybe 3 levels of it in VR is, as cool as it is, it made me so fucking motion sick. Like, made me feel so ill.
Weak.
I was getting a headache from like doing the tracking, looking up into the right at the like at the fighter that I was like.
You got bitch made inner ears.
Yeah, I wasn't feeling nauseous. It just gave me a headache to like play it. I don't know. I like the idea of it more in theory than practice. And it's kind of like one of my general complaints about VR gaming is like I can't do more than an hour.
Well, and VR gaming. And, by the way, Project Wingman is literally 0 budget Ace Combat. Like, it's note for note Ace Combat, but with no budget.
Yeah.
Which is fine, but it's not its own thing really.
I played Tunic. I played on Game Pass. I played. I should check out Potion Craft probably and Chained
Potion
Echoes.
Craft is fucking tits.
What else did I play? Oh, I played State of Decay 2. Whatever I liked about State of Decay 1, I'm pretty sure State of Decay 2 didn't capture it all because I bounced off that pretty hard.
I have no idea what you just said. Stay to the K.
State of Decay. So
Oh,
it's like a
State-
zombie.
oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like a
know what that is.
third-person action zombie game, but you manage like a group of survivors. Like if once,
I played like 10 minutes of the first one and bounced off.
yeah, I kind of like the first one, but I didn't think the second one did anything interesting to make me want to keep playing it. There was this Russian it's so fucking goofy. It was this Russian survival. You're like a astronaut, and it's like very like cynical parody. You're like an astronaut working for a major corporation, and there's like in a mega ship, and there's like an accident. It's like a mega ship that Breath Edge, yeah, and it's. I actually liked it a lot. I don't know if I did the last bit of it.
Okay,
I did.
well, I have a lot to say about Breath Edge. I did a post about it last year.
Okay.
Basically, you should stop while you're ahead, because
Yeah.
the first and second chapters are really good.
Yeah.
If you like that kind of game, the survival crafting sort of thing. The third chapter, it turns into just like a linear slog of like puzzles, and they're bad puzzles, and combat, and it's bad combat.
Right. I remember getting to the point where you have like an actual ship, and you go to like the first space station. Yep. And I did that stuff, and then it was like, hey, you're gonna go to like the next station, and I got to like the next station and realized it was like a repeat of the first station.
Yeah.
And said like, okay, I'm good. And I went, well, let me see like what else there is in the game. And I remember looking at like an FAQ or something, and it was basically like, that is the rest of the game, is you will keep doing that several more times.
Well, not really several more times. I think it's just that last time, and then it pretty much wraps up. And then you do get to go back to the chapter 2 area and do whatever you want. But whatever you want basically just consists of making your own station that will eventually fail anyway.
Right. Yeah. Like you can't make a truly self-sustaining station, right?
Not really. No.
It's there's like moments where you're like, this could have been really great, and like I said, I got to that point of the gameplay and was like, all right, I saw everything I wanted to see out of it. Other than that, I think I own Astroneer. I don't think I played that on Game Pass. I could talk about it, but I don't have a lot good to say about it. There was one that came out that I thought was kind of neat, where it's like half like, God, what is it? You're like in a mech suit, and you're doing kind of quasi like Factorio type base building, but you venture out into this alien wilderness to like clear nests of Zerg, like whatever. What was that called? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
You don't know that one? It shit. What is it? It's that all the dialogue was really bad in it, but the actual gameplay was kind of cool. What else did I play not too long ago, or even this year? I'm trying to think what I played. I have a bunch installed that I haven't even touched. I have Death's Door installed.
Yeah.
Evil Dynasty. I still haven't made myself play Record of Lotus War or Deedlit, even though I'm sure it is good and fun.
It's fun.
Trek to Yomi, I thought looked cool, but I suspect it'll be not fun at all. So I haven't played it yet.
That looked kind of boring.
Yeah, I have a suspicion. I'm like, it could be cool. It's probably not. I'm willing to bet it's not.
All right, I gotta cut you off here.
Yeah, that's fine.
For one thing, I'm actually gonna put this at the top. I'm gonna put it above the Magic of Grimrock mod for Legend of Grimrock 2.
No way.
Yeah, Phoenotopia Awakening was so good. I had such a blast playing through it, and it surprised me so much that I was like, I can't. I've not forgiven Steam's Discovery or whatever for letting me down on this, because this should have been shoved in my face like a fat cock and just rubbed all over it.
Well, I mean, I definitely thought, like, how has Jumander not played this? That was an easy thought.
I'm actually a little pissed that everybody who, after I posted about it, was like, oh yeah, Phoenotopia is sweet. It's like, how does this not come up in the forums then? Why aren't you?
I could have sworn I did there's something, or like,
maybe I don't read other threads, but
well, yeah, but I usually bug you either through Steam or something like, hey, you should check this out. I'm surprised I didn't do that for that one.
Yeah, see, even Dr. Weed Poop doesn't know, had never heard of it.
Yeah, it's
100% Weed Poop. Look it up. It's on Switch. It's on Steam. It's probably on some other stuff. It's outstanding. Yeah, Phoenotopia Awakening is currently the best game that I've played, and I'm putting a little bit of stress on that because there are some other great things that came out, or not came out, but that I played this year. But so far, Phoenotopia is definitely the best. Even Dr. Weed Poop. Yeah, it's great. I'm gonna take a piss, because we've been talking for an hour, and then when I get back, do you want to give me some Rex?
Sure.
Or there's something else that I know you played right here.
I would be happy to talk about that, yeah.
Alright, well, give me just a moment. I'll put the clips up, and then I'll pause or run P, mute myself and run P. Where is it?
Sure.
All right, so I'll be back. You entertain Dr. Weed Poop, because we can't let our only viewer down.
Oh, that's a high. That's a big ask. I don't know if I'm going to have anything entertaining to say. I'll talk about stuff on Game Pass while you're literally away and can't respond. Let's see. I'm looking for... There's a game that I don't foresee Jumander having any great interest in. God, what is it? It was this one where you go on, like, an adventure through the desert. You're like this girl that wears a mask, and you take like a jet bike around. I think the problem with it is that there isn't enemies in the game. Like, there isn't any conflict really. So what's the, it's meant to be that sort of chill / puzzly game. Yeah, Sable. Yeah. And like, I ended up really liking the art style in it. But I just think, it's sort of a anathema to me to have like a game where there's no failure state. And I just realized, to me, it's like a symbol of like a newer generation of gamer that right. Yeah. The shaders are awesome. I mean, I think it delivers on that really well. And so that's what got me to download it. But yeah, exactly. The actual game just didn't. I did it all. I played through it to the point of like collecting all the masks, or all the major masks. I think there was like one for the collectathon with like, but I thought it was interesting enough with what they did. It's not a game you'd play a second time. I wouldn't see any reason to do that, but interesting enough for one playthrough. There's one other. I was talking about Sable with you saw it.
I also did not play Sable.
Yeah, I don't see you. I always feel like have a greater emphasis on like gameplay being a requirement, and I feel like Sable really would have failed you hard.
I give a pass to some things that like have less gameplay and more story if it's actually good. But I obviously am not usually inclined towards them.
And I will say, you had posed the question, it got me looking at Game Pass, and I'm remembering the one game that for sure I played on Game Pass that I should have paid money for, Dragon Quest Builders 2. I had a blast with that. That ruled.
Yeah, the first Dragon Quest Builders was like awesome, but there were like so many glaring flaws in it, and then Dragon Quest Builders 2, it going through it was a little irritating because it started feeling like all of the really obvious flaws in the first game were like intentionally placed there to make the sequel better.
Yeah,
like the fact that you couldn't craft stacks of shit in the first game, which is bizarre for a crafting game.
Yeah. And I remember the game that I was trying to describe to you before, Rift Breaker, was the one where you were in a mech suit and you go to an alien world.
I was gonna play the demo for that, but it was like it was either like too big of a install size, and I was like, forget this, or it didn't work immediately when I tried to boot it up, and so I wound up deleting it.
Yeah, so, I liked it well enough. I don't know where that it would place terribly high on your list based on what we talked about, but might be something worth checking out if you use it. That's a Game Pass game. That is not a buy game for sure.
Yeah, I don't do Game Pass. Not really for the reason that you've stated. It's just it's more so that I buy things anyway, and I have so much shit that I need to get to. And then I'm always buying more compulsively anyway, that I would just never have time to even install most of the Game Pass shit. It would basically act like a subscription service for demos for me, which I'm sure a lot of people use it for, but I don't have that kind of time.
I'm right there with you on that, and I bought Red Dead Redemption 2 on a sale a month ago or something, and I'm like, I don't know when I'm ever even gonna install this. What?
I said Jesus wept.
Why? Just because it bought it on a sale, or?
It sucks. That's why. I hate it.
Everybody has such good things to say about it, but I'm like, I'm not gonna. And I liked Red Dead Redemption 1, and I'm like, I'm not gonna give Rockstar $30 to $60 for, because that was like, anytime it was on sale, it was like, it's on sale for $42. I'm like, I'm not giving you this for a game that is like multiple years old.
Yeah.
It was a point of principle. So when I was on sale for $20, I was like, all right, this feels good. I feel like I'm sticking it to Rockstar.
If you want my recommendation, only do the hunting stuff and just ignore all the story beats. Because it's so bad, man. Anyway,
we can talk about this all in the same.
Well, Weed Poop mentioned that Game Pass doesn't have all the indie trash on it. That is one thing I wanted to bring up about the Switch. When I first got it, I was like, oh, great, I get to play the new bad Metroid game, and also, I guess, like some Mario shit or whatever. But then when I looked at the eStore for it, I was shocked because it actually has a fairly good selection of genuine indie shit, like the kind of things that I find, and I'm like, oh, I'm one of 20 people who have ever played this game, and I really love it. A lot of that shit is on Switch now, which blew me away because the eStore for DS was terrible.
They definitely are not doing the kind of harsh curation that I know Nintendo, for in the past. I've looked at the Switch's store a few times, but I haven't like touched my Switch in quite a while. I think I'm gonna bust out for the new Fire Emblem, and I still have to play. I'm weird that I think I'm weird that I really like Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
That is weird, yeah.
It's, as far as I know, that makes me strange. But I bought the DLC for it and never played it, which is like a whole standalone campaign. So at some point I'd like to do that because then I want to go and play 3, even though I know they're not story-wise really connected in any way, or at least I don't think so. I'd like to do that and then do 3, but I'll probably play Fire Emblem first.
Yeah, I thought I'd throw that out there because there's a lot of stuff that I bring up or play and really enjoy that if you're primarily a Switch gamer or if you have a Switch for like travel or whatever, you can probably wind up picking it up on Switch for a decent price even, which is surprising, at least to me.
Yeah. The Babe design in Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is top tier, and it's a clear failure in Chronicles 3, which is its own problem. Since I believe all of the like sword designs were from a hentai artist, so they're like way sexed up, which hey, that's cool. But yeah, I liked Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I think a fair complaint of it would be that it takes too long to give you all the tools to play the game the way you're actually supposed to play it, with like being able to do the combos and stuff. You spend a long time in the game not able to, it'll feel like enemies have too much health or like take too long to kill.
Right.
And then later in the game, it's like, here's how you do the elemental break, like on top of the regular break, and then that opens up like this chain, roulette thing.
Is it that you couldn't do it before, or is it just that
you can't?
Oh Jesus!
You can't do it. So they give you the tool. There's like kind of 2 elements to it, where it's like one, there's like the weapon arts you do, and then it's like you do like a topple into something into like a stun. And that'll like make them more vulnerable and do a lot of damage. Mm-hmm. But there's like another layer on top of that you literally can't do until you get the right blades to do like the right elemental combinations or whatever, to like elementally break them. And when you do like the elemental break, you'll get like this roulette for like putting in the weapon arts or something. I mean, it's been a while, but it goes from like, if you just did the weapon arts and like beat up a guy, you do 10,000 damage. If you do the elemental break, you will do like 500,000 damage. Like, like it is required to fight stuff. And some of the monsters early on feel like they're balanced for the elemental breaks, despite the fact you don't have it yet. So I think that was, kind of my biggest complaint, but I like the uber anime story of it and all that. Yeah. So I enjoyed it. If you, and the hentai art helped too.
Let's move on to Salt and Sacrifice.
Sure.
I'm watching the clips here.
Yeah.
So I watched you play this because I believe you got it on Epic Game Store. This was originally an Epic exclusive. Is that right?
I believe I illegally downloaded it because it was only on Epic Game Store, and I, as a point of principle, do not have Epic Game Store.
Okay.
So every once in a while, Epic Game Store will have a game that I really want to play to the degree where I will do something I otherwise don't do and haven't done in years, which is pirate.
Which is suck a dude off for the money to buy it.
Yeah, which is I do that constantly.
And whale porn doesn't seem to have that much of a problem with it. So he's got a lot of money.
Fine with it. There was a funny. It's well, I mean, that's a whole other thing. That's like the reverse of that situation. But it's funny. There was a great joke where it was like there was like a video I saw online where somebody was like, "Hey, would you rather give up?" 4 dudes talking, and they're like, "Would you rather give up blowjobs or like cheese or something like that?" And everybody was like, "Oh, I'd give up blowjobs." Yeah, blowjobs. Like, yeah, they make my jaw hurt.
Nice.
It's just catches me really off guard.
Very good.
So yeah, I pirated it because I was pissed off about the Epic Games thing, but I liked Salt and Sacrifice a lot, and I think I remember you talking about it a previous stream that I happened to be able to tune into, where you mentioned some of those features of it, which were missing in this game. I like couldn't believe that they got rid of like the religion equivalent, which was
The covenants.
It was like it was like a faith, like you chose like a particular faith to worship, but it was basically covenants. And they got rid of that, and I thought that was a very strange thing because that was such a strong feature to me of the previous game.
Yeah, I agree. It's odd because they changed a lot, despite it mechanically looking almost identical.
Yeah. Yep.
And one thing I remember from watching you play it is that you were really bad at it, and
Sure.
I didn't have nearly as much trouble as you seem to be having. Did you actually finish it ever?
I did. Yeah, I beat the game. Yeah. Yeah, I eventually figured out how to play it mostly, but I don't profess to be a god gamer, at least at this. I'm really not at all. But yeah, I was very frustrated because for one thing, I was making things harder than they needed to be, where I would like engage the mages. This gets into sort of engage the mages and have like two mages that I was fighting at once. You, I think, saw me. I think it was you. It was either I think it was you making fun of me just like eating it to traps over and over.
Yeah,
there was like one trap. Yeah, there was like one trap in particular that I think in a like 2-hour stream I got hit by every single time, and I died a bunch like from other stuff later. So I passed by that trap, 15 times and like just kept getting hit by it because I would keep forgetting that the activation switch for it is like way ahead of it.
Yeah.
And so
you'd be looking for the trap itself, but not the tripwire.
Yeah, I'd be like looking for the trap and be like, okay, I can get a little closer, but there's like a plate, not a tripwire or something. I distinctly remember it. It's like the first combat area, not the like camp, but the first combat area. You like go out and then like up and to the left, out from like the bonfire. Like normal progression of the thing would be to go down for the first time you're through the area, but as you unlock stuff you go up and to the left. And I ate it to that particular up the ramp thing so many times, and then it's at that point
it was so fucking funny. Every single time I saw you moving in that direction, I was like, here we go, and I'd prep like the emote or whatever in chat. Be like, choke.
Yeah, and I would do it. I'd do it on command. No, there was a lot that caught me like over and over. And I think the game had me, it felt like the game has you passing through areas multiple times a lot more. Because if you want the gear or whatever, you have to farm for it.
Right.
And
so the main innovation with this, as far as its structure, is that it kind of does the Monster Hunter thing, where you have like a boss fight against a boss, and then after you beat it, the boss will just kind of show up again, and it'll have drops that you can use to make equipment from, and the equipment is like elementally themed with the boss itself. And you can run around and you can like farm them or take other quests. It's just like Monster Hunter. And just like Monster Hunter, you can wind up wasting a lot of time doing stuff you don't really need to do.
Yeah, there's two aspects to it, right? So once you beat the boss once, they're all mages, it's really the mages that appear. So there are a few bosses that are not mages that will not appear elsewhere on the map, but the vast majority are mages, and you do the Mage Devour. They have specific locations they show up when you're playing not on a quest. It's like they will there's a there's going to be a lightning mage here. Now you've killed the lightning mage. But you also open up additional hunting quests for that kind of mage that are higher level. Numbers go up, where they'll have some kind of unique reward also on top of that. So even though there's like a set you get from crafting their parts, and it's RNG what parts you get. So there's like some just regular hunting. There's also some specific quests where you're like, hey, I really want this hood or something. And you go and do the quest for the level 17 version of the lightning mage instead of the level 7 one that you fought initially. And it just, what it ended up being was that Salt and Sanctuary had some backtracking and stuff, and that was good. But overall, you were like making forward progress and not spending a lot of time lingering in previous areas, I felt. And then Salt and Sacrifice was like, I bet if you looked at the maps, it's a much smaller game. And at least that's how it felt to me.
It absolutely is. It's kind of a double-edged sword, though, because one of the big problems with Salt and Sanctuary is that there's no in-game map. Like, not even a very bad one. There's nothing. You can't look at anything to give you any indication of how zones connect with each other, which itself is, good and bad, because it makes the world feel really big and like really interesting to explore. But it also means that when you do have to backtrack to a totally different region for one reason or another, you're completely lost a lot of the time. Even having played through the game multiple times, like, there's some points where I'm just like, how the fuck do you get here again? I can't remember. Like, I guess I'll just bump around this vague area for a while, and hopefully I'll find the right hallway to take. And luckily, Salt and Sacrifice doesn't do that, because it's all smaller, more self-contained maps that still have, like you mentioned, like alternate routes that you unlock, shortcuts to get to different parts of it faster.
But they're not that useful. Like, it's not, there was a lot of like shortcuts I remember unlocking where I went, this is a straight up pointless shortcut, or
well, I think a lot of that is because they expect you to do a lot of the random mage hunting, where the mages can like bounce around to those other areas, and so having that shortcut open is a little nice.
Yeah, and there were certain mages I just didn't engage with because I looked at what their sets were, and I was like, okay, I've beaten it once. I'm not going to farm this because I'm not
a great hammer or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not spec that way. I did my weeaboo spec. I got my katana, doing my lightning katana or something.
Yeah. That is one thing that I really liked was the addition of weapon arts, basically.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Yeah, I thought
that definitely made the progression of the equipment feel a lot more meaningful. Where there were times where I would like have a statistically stronger weapon and be like, actually no, I like having the like point blank burst of dark magic or whatever, or the weapon buff that this has way better.
Yeah, I distinctly remember I'd bring up the lightning katana, like it being really hard for me to switch away from that because the weapon art I think was good and lightning damage was very effective, as opposed to like I think the next one I got after that was like the dark, like a dark katana or like a blood katana, and like nothing was weak to it.
Right.
There's like one mage that's like a light elemental mage that it's more effective against. But that was for a system that I think was flawed with the mage hunts and like the grinding of the mages. They made the best decisions they could. Maybe that's the way I want to phrase it, around the different gear and like making you want multiple sets of gear and stuff.
I'll put it this way, with the comparison to Monster Hunter, It does a way better job of making each weapon that you can craft potentially useful compared to Monster Hunter, where like a good 50% of the weapons you can craft for any particular thing are completely useless because they apply status effects as their primary thing on a weapon that you hit like maybe 3 times per century in a fight. And then on top of that, status effects just suck in Monster Hunter and their effectiveness goes down every time you apply them. So you'll probably apply poison a total of twice in a random fight. It felt way better in this to even just see a new weapon and be like, oh, I want to know what this weapon art is.
Yeah, and there was a bit of that too, of like, I'm gonna craft this and prepare myself to be prepare myself to be disappointed. Or I'm sure there was, I think more often than not, I was like, is it better than the lightning katana? And I like, is it actually better than this? What if I do everything in my power, and then you end up farming whatever that relevant wizard materials is a bunch, the upgrade materials, whatever the relevant wizard is, because you're like, well, I need a full set of this to enhance. I swear there was like an enhancement from having the matching set with it or something.
I don't remember that, but maybe I just missed that. There are some like accessories that you can craft that like the daggers.
Oh, that's what it was. The daggers. You were like, I have to at least get a dagger because then I have to add in the bonus elemental damage on the dagger to see if that brings it to parity. But then ultimately you would have to go out in the world and be like, all right, let me hit some mages with this and see like how many of the mages even care about the damage type it has, like, because again, that numerical thing with the different resistances, it ended up negating a lot of the numerical superiority.
Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to give it a pass for that, mostly because the numerical changes aren't usually that significant. And
no, I don't think that's a bad, I mean, I think it was cool that it had you experiment. But it's like all of that in the service of here's all of the different like and one of the best points around the mages being that it's like comical what they started. They drew with like the basic elements first, and then some of the mage types.
Yeah, like Bibliomancer.
Yeah, Bibliomancer. It's like, okay, at what point am I gonna fight like the Weedmancer?
Yeah,
get my
there is a
marijuana weapon.
Yeah.
Was there? I don't remember that. Was there a hypno or like a hypnomancer or something?
Yeah, or like psychic or something.
There was definitely a psychic. There was definitely like 3 different ones you could call psychic in some form, and there was like a cerebromancer or something. Like, I mean, it was funny. It got very funny with the mages. So it made it less wearing, I think, when I moved into that point of starting to appreciate like how stupid they were getting. Like, you don't get to call a tinker like a mage. Like, no, he's a mechanomancer. Like, that's just a tinker. That's that's an engineer or a tinker. Like, you don't get to say that's a wizard. Like, it's a guy with a Bunsen burner. He's a wizard. No, he's a scientist. Like,
chemomancer.
He works in a laboratory. Like, he's a chemomancer. So I thought it again, it definitely took me longer, I guess, to play it than you, I'm sure. Because I wanted to engage with the mage fights and like certain things, just figuring out like what the threshold to actually stagger mobs were with my chosen weapon, like that Green Knight in the clip that you beat the shit out of. I mean, I remember feeling like, dude, this is like a mini boss. When I first encountered him, because you just do no damage for one thing, but also like you don't have a sense of like what it takes to stagger him. And then like getting further in the game and getting good gear, but also getting like the right weapon art where you're like, I can use this weapon art and roll, and do like 2 hits and I'll be
Stagger.
able to keep fighting.
Yeah.
I'll be able to stagger. I'll be able to keep fighting.
Yeah.
So
the one thing I would say that is a big negative as far as all that stuff goes is that it's very kind of obtuse as far as like what things are weaknesses and what things are resistances. Like it really just is like you pay attention to the damage numbers and go, okay, let me swap. Okay, is this a lower damage number because this weapon type just hits lighter and faster, or is it because there's like some sort of elemental resistance at play? And it was never very clear, and I feel like the game was a little too it just wasn't open enough about what you should be looking for as far as doing damage.
Yeah, like I'm trying to
And
think.
there's too many elements. There's too many elements. Like a lot of the mages are just combos of elements, but they're not always super intuitive, and it's hard enough to like remember what the elemental weaknesses for each element are.
Yeah, I'm trying to even think if every element had a weapon. Like, I don't think it did. I can't remember like crafting a stone katana. Like, I don't think it was. I'm trying to think if every weapon type had an element like available for it or not. So then you kind of are forced to use like, well, what do they have? How many elements were there? Like 10 or something, like 12, and there's like 5 of a given element, maybe.
I don't remember, man.
I don't know. It was it was frustrating to me of like you said, having mages where the element was like nonsense. The damage itself, I think of something like I was playing Valheim recently, and Valheim gives you like a color prompt that is when you hit something, like if you hit it and it's yellow, that means you're doing like damage it's weak to, and if it's white, it's just damage it's neutral to, and if it's gray, it's damage it's specifically resistant to. And I think even having something like that gives you the clue to hone in on it would have been helpful. But you just kind of sort of know what your weapons do and go like, I don't feel like I'm doing very much damage in this. But that's wasted time. There's no reason they couldn't give you that information ahead of time, to your point.
Yeah. And as far as the platforming goes, I was shitting on you for falling into the same trap over and over and over. But the game really does, and the first game kind of had this, but this game, it's really obvious. There's some spots where they set up a trap and they want you to fall in it so bad that they just cheat you. Like they'll fuck up the hitboxes are so fucked up you'll just get slapped. Yeah. There's one clip in this compilation where I like walk under like a completely innocuous like ceiling. Giant spider.
Yeah. Oh, and it snaps you back. Yeah. Yep.
I was.
There's
past
stuff
that
like
guy.
that. There was. I'm trying to think. God, what was it? Or stuff. I mean, yeah. There's just some things set up very intentionally to be unfair, or like, hey, you have to fight. I was thinking of like there's like a temple on the left side of the map that's like a necromancy temple or something. Mm-hmm. And there's these priest dudes with like big staffs that if you're far away from them, they'll channel like a bunch of homing missiles at you.
Yeah, and it applies the death, instant death thing.
Yeah, and if you get close, they'll do like some big sweeping attacks. So I remember I like duck, dodge, dove, and whatever the 5 Ds of dodgeball. to get past all the projectiles, and then got hit with like just a swipe. But the swipe, they were on a tiny platform, so there wasn't like a lot of space for me to avoid this like big close quarters attack of theirs, and then it knocked me backwards despite being on like the other side of him. It knocked me, to the left, even though I rolled to his right, and went through a hole, and then the hole led immediately down to like a pressure plate that like shot me with shit or something like that. Where I went, there was a number of times playing this game.
It's like the gifts from what's it called? The oh god, what's the Spelunky? It's like the Spelunky gifts.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, just all of the forces converging. So it was not enjoyable when you die to something that you've seen before, like that.
But it was enjoyable for everyone watching. I want to make that point.
Yeah, clear. I think honestly, had I not been streaming it, I probably would have liked the game less. But having people watch you play it and getting some kind of enjoyment out of my fuck ups, that kept me in it longer. Like even when it was just who was always
when you were streaming to nobody.
No, I was streaming to what's his face? Oh my god, I'm having a brain fart. He was showing up to like every. He was just always looking for something to watch. Terminals, always looking for something to watch.
Yeah.
So and he was.
He's dead now. Mostly... I can tell he's dead now because he's not in this stream.
It's true. I got really worried and then I realized.
R.I.P.
But but R.I.P. because I have not seen him. I mean, I haven't streamed in a while, but he was good for just showing up and giving me a quick wall or being there. It kept me playing, and he'd ask questions, and honestly I think I would have bounced off without beating the game had he not shown up to the streams I was doing them.
Well, that's good.
I thought do you have it in the clip? No, that was I'm noticing because it didn't go off.
Yeah, I'm noticing that, but there's a lot of clips here, just me eating shit.
Good.
That was just what I clipped. I didn't clip me being awesome at the bosses.
The Calixtus tribute thing, where I honestly watching some of this, I'm like, did you just like take stuff from my stream of like me fucking up badly? But the like some of the movement stuff they put in felt. I mean, I really like all of it, right? Like you go through areas and you go, I know I'm going to need something to get to this next.
Right,
like area, and in the desert it's like the pulley stuff,
activate the zip lines or whatever.
Yeah, and they all were so bad. They're either like this is only for one thing specifically, or it's like you could do it anywhere but it's not useful everywhere, like, or almost ever. I hated it. I hated how useless the movement stuff was,
and it was a big letdown because that's still kind of true of the first game's abilities that you unlock, but they all felt a lot more imaginative than this. Like I like the fact that in the first game you have the obelisks that reverse gravity for you. That's a really cute way of getting rid of double jump. Then there's the torch buff that lets you like phase platforms in, and that's a really interesting idea because that means then you have to like pull out a torch to navigate these areas.
I mean, nothing felt as bad for me as specifically the pulleys did, because getting an item that's just like the same as getting like a lift key or something, like that's not an exciting item, but I mean the like mini parachute was like totally worthless besides the specific areas you use it for, and I hated that. It was like, oh, I can do something about fall damage. Like, no, you can't. Like, this is just for the magical updrafts. And I ate shit plenty of times, like because of how touchy those magical updrafts were. I died a lot, and that made me mad.
Did you find the secret area?
Did I find the secret area?
I'll give you a hint. It has to do with the fact that you can manually enter runes into the fast travel system, even though you never have to do that to do any progress.
And no, I don't remember doing that.
Yeah, there's a point in the game where in the background you can see runes carved into the walls. If you write down the rune combination and go back and travel there, there's a new area.
Huh. It's not necessary to complete the game. Like you've got.
Yeah, not necessary.
Because I remember. What's the area?
I don't remember what it's called, but I'll relieve you of having to look it up. So there's the only thing in that area is a lengthy platforming segment. And the only reward is a new merchant who only sells the lowest tier of crafting materials from the bosses, specifically the ones that are only used for cosmetics.
The ones that you also get 1,000,000 of.
Yeah.
Wow, very cute.
Yeah.
Super cute.
I thought it would be like the upgrade material shop. I was like, oh, they hid the upgrade material shop behind all this stuff so that you could do it, if you really wanted to max out stuff, before the end of the game. I thought, that's really clever. And then I went to look at the shop and I was like, did I do something wrong? Like, does he not have everything for some reason? And I looked it up and it was like, oh, this is the material shop. It only has the pebbles or whatever.
Stupid. It's so stupid.
So yeah, I hate
it. What a troll. There's some stuff with the game where I'm like, I can't remember if it was Salt and Sacrifice or was it like Vigil, Vigil the Longest Night or something?
You're confusing those two games?
It's just like certain areas where I'm like, yeah, I remember there being like a whole ice area, and then now I'm thinking about, I'm like, I'm pretty sure that was Vigil, like having a distinct, like separate ice area that you travel to, and I can't remember now if what game it was. Like,
it's been a while since I played Vigil. I think devs are scared to put useful things in missable areas now because people will shit their pants about accessibility. I think it's less about like accessibility and more just in general, people get really mad if they can't 100% something in a single playthrough.
Yeah. Well, and like, I mean, I think there's that. I think, the general trend, and not that Salt and Sacrifice really does this, but there is definitely a general trend of like devs wanting people to be able to see everything, right? Like they want to be able to beat the game, yes, but they also want to just be able to find and see everything, and they'll do whatever they can to ensure there's some way that you get to see all of the hard work they put in instead of
missing
some of the labor, right? Like, hey, we had Dave, the intern, did 10 hours doing this like one room. Let's make sure you get to actually see it. And if you get, by the end boss, we'll have like a guy that you can pay 10 coins to get like a ping on your map of where there's a secret you haven't found or something.
I really liked in Nier Automata where they just gave you a shop where you could buy all of the achievements.
Was that right?
Yeah.
I don't remember that. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. You can go through and try and get every single ending type if you want, or you can just buy them and pretend like you did it.
Yeah. No, that's a good feature, honestly.
Yeah. Fuck it.
If that's what you want to do, fuck it. Yeah. There's plenty of game trends happening. Honestly, I like Vigil more than I like this game.
I think Vigil was more creative. Salt and Sacrifice, I liked the first game so much that I think it's interesting that they went for the sort of Monster Hunter design for it. but
Yeah.
it didn't turn out great. It didn't turn
No.
out terrible, but it wasn't great, and I wound up just kind of being softly disappointed by it. Not like completely miserable at any point, but it didn't feel like a great move for the franchise.
I mean, I'm reminded of just some of the flaws in how the gameplay in this game works. Like you in this clip, like you walk out of the room and you get hit by something. Like that happened to me all the time, especially with like mage hunts or whatever, where their attacks are just so big. They're gonna like clip through a wall and hit you off screen. But the number of times it happened where I like hadn't even entered the area and there was like a big knight or like a mage hunt thing where I would just get like speared out the side of the doorway, like surprise idiot. And I'd invariably get hit by it 2 or 3 times, at least. Even a dog learns faster.
Yeah.
But it just, there was so much like player punishment. And like, I played through Elden Ring this year at the start of the year and I loved it. For me, it probably is my favorite game I played this year.
Oh, I didn't realize you were a professional games journalist. Congratulations.
Yeah, that's right. But I felt like in that, I'm just going to ignore that. I felt like in that, and it's true of like the other FromSoft games, right? Like they do things to you with the intent of like, you'll see, most of it's like, you'll see it once something. And you'll learn something. Or actually really a much better example of this, although I didn't play it much this year, but I played it a ton last year, was oh my god, why can't I think of the name of it?
Sorry,
I'm sure I didn't.
We'll just sit here and wait.
Noida. And actually I did play Noida a little bit in February this year.
Oh.
Noida, for me, I've played just shy of 300 hours of. And I would say only in the last like 50 hours of it have my deaths stopped being deaths where I've reacted with, now I know X. Like you just keep unpacking things about like, now I know better about this. Now I know X. And Salt and Sacrifice had so few deaths that I felt like I truly learned anything from. That I just went, well, okay, fucking really.
It's like it's like the end of Burn After Reading. We learned not to do that again. What it is we did, I have no fucking idea.
Yeah. So it was a negative experience. I still hate the art style. That isn't changed from Salt and Sacrifice.
It's a little changed. It's changed in weird ways. They're not as frog-faced as before, but they're also...
But they still are a bit. They're still ugly as shit. I mean, it's still like, I can't wait. I remember it's just like being unable to wait until you got an armor set with a full hat, like a full hood or something, so you didn't have to look at the face at all. And then they're like, well, here's NPCs that you have to look at their faces. It's an easy criticism, but I think it's one that should be made, is I don't think their art style does anything for them.
Yeah.
And that's another comparison I draw to something like Vigil or Blasphemer.
Blasphemous.
Right? Blasphemous. Yeah, there we go. Loved Blasphemous.
Yeah.
And a little different. Vigil, I think, is closer in intent of design. But it's like the like clean comedy, like you don't have to cuss to be funny or something. Like, you don't have to make an ugly art style to be a good Dark Souls 2D.
Well, I don't think that's why the art style is ugly.
You think it's just untalented artists and that's it?
I don't want to say untalented, but tasteless maybe.
Sure, that works fine for me. Yes, I think their taste is.
It has a very DeviantArt look to it.
Yeah, and I mean it extends further than just the humanoid designs, right? Like even looking through these clips, I'm reminded that the environments are not particularly attractive. they're serviceable.
It's amateurish, but not like really, really hilariously so. It's just like not quite a professional artist at this point.
Yeah, but they also like. I mean,
see, jury's having fun with my failures.
Yeah,
that's probably the strongest point of this game. Is just other people laughing at you eating shit.
Yeah, as you were talking about me streaming and just eating shit constantly to the point where it actually became a spectacle, and it was like, you know, everybody rushing in like, Calixtus is streaming Salt and Sacrifice, let's watch him eat shit to a log trap over and over. But like, there's something to be said with amateurish graphics where if they understand, like, you know, they have a unique idea that they want to get out there, then that can shine through, like the graphics not be. And I just don't think this game has enough sense of unique ideas to get that.
Well, I think part of the problem is that it takes itself a little too seriously.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
It's a little up its own ass. And I think a better example of like a really amateurish but more charming style is the Scoutfold games. Because it's dead obvious that guy's drawing all his own sprites. And in fact, he has to like reuse them multiple games.
Sorry, Jerry's comment. Johnny Knoxville, this is Salt and Sage.
and then a giant spider guy drops on top of him.
Just a giant spider guy drops on top of Johnny Knoxville, impaling him, and Wee Man gets launched by a log trap like 400 feet. Oh shit. No, I haven't played Scottfold, but I mean I can just, it makes sense. Like it makes sense of, it takes itself too seriously. I think the mage designs, especially the wackier ones, are probably like the highlight of this game. You know, in terms of art, design wise, it's like the one place where they let themselves have any fun, but like the environments were terribly boring to me. You know, I wasn't like, oh wow, this swamp, like the swamp, you know, is like, it's not a love letter to Dark Souls. Like, it's not done with love. It's just like, this is what a swamp looks like because this is what it looks like, you know, kind of in Dark Souls or something, which I thought that those kind of feelings really permeated throughout. Whereas I felt like Salt and Sanctuary, it wasn't as obvious to me, or maybe just because it was so novel that it was like a 2D Dark Souls.
I think a part of that problem is the new overall layout, where it's the separate you know, zones that you warp into, and I think the problem is that none of the parts of those zones really have a chance to feel like actual whole areas in and of themselves, because they always feel like this is just this little section of this zone. Like, the swamp is this tiny little hallway of this zone that has these other parts in it.
Well, but they also don't explore, because of that design, there isn't any they're not forced at all to do like an uncomfortable transition to like a truly different kind of zone. You know, like they don't have to figure out how do we make it make sense that this like misty forest castle first biome meets the desert biome. You know, they're just like, here's two portals, and they don't. And I think there's from like desert. There is a shortcut through like a sewer or something from like the second zone to the third zone. Maybe it's just even alluded to, but you can't actually do it. I think it might be alluded to because that's how I'm like trying to remember actual plot. Like there's this whole thing of like the plot is like there's a king and he believes that he can like gain immortality.
I don't remember any of this shit.
There's a piece with it like there's like a tent you can't access in the starting encampment,
Mhm.
and it's because the king like actually came to this area, and then you actually run into like NPCs who are like retainers of the king or something as you progress through the areas, and they'll kind of like update you like, oh yeah, the king moved on to this, and then eventually you do find like the dead king or something like in a chair.
Yeah.
You're basically told like, okay, he died before he could make it to the final area. But that's where there's like an implication where like, oh yeah, the royal guard found this way through the sewers or something, and I think you can't actually do that zone transition that they did, which I'm like, don't even just say they used the damn runes. Like,
Yeah.
don't tell me that they walked to like the zone that I teleported to, and not make it in the game. But I don't know. That's aside about a plot that is largely unintelligible and forgettable, which is a great FromSoft tradition.
Exactly.
Oh shit!
Yeah. Well, the
can't say
difference
that.
the difference is there's not 300 YouTube channels devoted to weekly analyses of the item descriptions in Salt and Sacrifice. Which
true.
means there's more mystery alive in Salt and Sacrifice than in any of FromSoft's games.
For better, hey, Elden Ring, I was able to at least parse some of the plot without anybody explaining it to me, as opposed to
You
me
were
making
able
it
to
through.
parse some of the plot of Elden Ring without a doctorate in archaeology.
Yeah, without like five people like putting their heads together to try to piece together the bits that made sense to them. As opposed to Dark Souls 1 through 3, where I'm like, so I have a new blank one that they refer to me by, and that's about all I get out of this.
Well,
Like,
here's the thing, Callistus. Fire is good, and not fire.
Agreed.
Not fire is not good.
fair.
Okay.
Is that all of the Dark Souls games right there?
I think so. That's all I got.
I got that like being undead's not that bad, but it's pretty good to be human, and then something about fire too.
Yeah.
that's I don't know. I didn't get a lot out of it. There other people can explain it and make it make sense, but there's just moments where I'm like, because I don't usually go back and replay old games, especially ones that are like really long with like a big narrative component or whatever. I don't get like re-exposed.
Yeah, it's in one ear, out the other for you.
Yeah. So there's stuff like, oh my god, this character showed up in Elden Ring. It's so funny, and I'm like, I played the other Dark Souls games. I literally don't even remember, this guy.
Hold the phone. Are you talking about Patches, motherfucker?
Yeah,
Patches?
Like I don't even remember. Like I don't remember the significance of Patches in the Dark Souls game. So like it's meaningless to me,
All right, Boomer.
Yeah, that's right. That's the level you're working with. Although to be fair, with the first Dark Souls game, me and Whaleporn, like he
jerked each other off.
Yeah, he basically like wanted me to play it so bad, and I'm not like one to usually, at least when Dark Souls 1 came out, and I'm better about it now, but I like there are times where I just don't want to play a game where I'm punished over and over again. But I was really like absolutely not into that when Dark Souls 1 came out. So he like had to basically put the controller in my hand and is like, I want you to just like play through and beat the first boss. And I was like, yeah, quit being a bitch, beat the first boss. And then, I did that and I was like, this is cool. I'll probably play more later or something. And then he essentially was like, look, we're going to play more. If you're struggling with any boss, I'll come on, we'll co-op it.
It's like driving you to the dentist.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I remember we did that for a bit. So there was like a couple bosses where I specifically was like, can you just come out and help me? You know, like the gargoyle fight or something. I was like, this is so gay, like the two gargoyles, you know, or whatever, where I'm like, can you just come help me? He's like, yeah, sure, I struggle with that. But like I did like oh my god, what are their fucking names? The two knights.
Smog and Ornstein.
Smog and Ornstein. I did that one on my own. I was pretty proud of that. But I remember I got to like the last boss of Dark Souls 1 and was like, this guy is fucking destroying me. Because I played through all Dark Souls 1 as like an armor tard, because you could actually do that in Dark Souls 1. You could just have a big shield and you could just block stuff. So I like didn't learn to parry at all, and like, you know, essentially didn't learn to dodge roll at all until Dark Souls 2. But I ended up having him come on, and then he like effortlessly parried every attack of the last boss and killed him so fast, and I felt like such a little retard baby.
Yeah.
It was
That's
very
what brothers are
frustrating.
for.
That's what brothers are for. And it was a throwback to his, you know, he's 4 years older than me. And so a throwback to early gaming with him, where I'd play like Mega Man, you know, like Mega Man 3 or something on NES. And I would play through the level and then get to the boss and be like, can you help me do the boss? So it felt like that again, which was kind of a nice throwback. I don't know. It was a good gaming moment. And then Dark Souls 2, I did all on my own. And Dark Souls 3, we did some co-op, but I think I ended up playing through that one a second time all on my own. And then Elden Ring, I was very proud of myself, patting myself on the back for never using a human summon in the game. But then again, the summon ashes were so strong that you didn't need a human summon.
That actually reminds me about Insult and Sacrifice. It seems like they went way hard into the whole idea of there being co-op. But I played this on a PS5, because it happened to be on sale when I got my PS5. So I didn't have any multiplayer, so I have no idea how that worked.
Yeah, they had right, they had like multiplayer missions you could do, and I was like, why would I do this? Like, why would I go on a, because I remember looking at all the faction stuff and being like, is there a strong reward for like actually going and doing the multiplayer co-op? And there wasn't. You know, I'm like, I need the carrot on the stick for bothering to do this, or else I can just go out in the world and farm the mages for the shit I actually want.
There was one faction that had like one katana that was like a class 5 katana or something. I think that was it.
Yeah, and I remember looking at it, and there was something about it where I was like, thankfully this is not good for X reason, so I don't have to worry about getting it. I was able to rationalize why I wasn't going to spend even more time getting, you know, my punched in the gut and then having my balls stepped on by stupid shit in the game.
Well, I brought it up because I have no idea how it even works, and so I was curious if it was going to be like co-op in the Souls game sense, or if you could like actually fully co-op the game.
No, the way I understood it from the system was that you have to put in like a rune, you know, you basically activate a rune combination for a quest, and then it would like send you into the area specifically for killing that one mage.
So it's like instanced things like in Monster Hunter again.
Yeah, I mean, it's an insta hunt like for a specific mage, which is great, except if you know where they are, you just go do them anyway. So like it wasn't a strong motivation for that, and I'm like, I don't want to play with another human player, and I think, see ya, Dr. Weed Poop. I think that maybe that would have exposed you to PvP 2 in the same thing. I think there was PvP.
Yeah, I think there was. I don't know.
But,
again, I had no.
But you're not forced to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't care much for PvP or co-op in these kinds of games anyway, so.
No, I just like when they produce a particularly funny video or something. You know, like in Dark Souls, the miner dude squad with Billy Squires the stroke playing over it. Like that's that's about as good as like any reason to do it is going to get.
I think my favorite are the ones where they hide as part of the environment or as another
Yeah.
NPC.
Oh, that's good.
And they just wait there for the invader to like give up.
It's a very prey-like maneuver.
Yeah.
Oh, that rules.
All right.
Yeah, it's just the game's hard enough as it is. I don't need to make it any harder for myself.
Where does this go? Where does this go?
Oh, that is
You probably want to put it below Nomad Survival. I don't know what else you've played this year.
well, so I've played I mean not this year, but I've played ActRaiser. Teardown again, that was a year. So you actually probably there's like I think new missions that were added. So I probably haven't done some of the missions in Teardown, but
Yeah, if you played it last
that.
year, it probably hadn't released yet.
The last mission of like Teardown that was available when I played it was at the there's kind of like a dockside town that you do a couple heists in, and it was like the second
like a
heist there.
helicopter that chases you at one point.
Yeah. So that was, and then I think they've added like a brand new map or a couple new maps since then. But I like Teardown. I mean, so to me, it's not as good as Teardown. Honestly, to me, Tunic has plenty of faults, but like when we talk about like that there's something at the core interesting that it's doing, like I think Tunic is doing something way more interesting than a sequel to the first 2D Dark Souls that I can think of, right? When you're making the second one of like the reason the first one was of note had a lot to do with the fact that nobody else was offering that particular combination of attributes.
But on the other hand, I think it is interesting that they decided to go with Monster Hunter as the primary inspiration for the sequel to the Dark Souls of 2D platformers. That's bizarre and honestly kind of cool, even though it doesn't work well. It works
right.
Okay.
I mean they took a risk, but it wasn't a risk. To me, it wasn't a risk for something like truly brand new. It was just like, what else can we ape? Is the way it presented. So for me, like I thought Tunic was a better game than this was. But
I do not, and here's why. I think the combat in Tunic that you have to do is absolutely miserable.
It is quite miserable, I will agree. It is pretty miserable.
And it was still pretty fun, even with all the problems and the bullshit deaths and the rope progression and the weird upgrade mechanics. It was a lot more fun to fight stuff in Salt and Sacrifice. And all the puzzle shit in Tunic kind of fell flat for me. Because so much of it just wound up being like The Witness, but badder. Especially once you get past like the actual like game part of it and get to the end game of Tunic.
Yeah, it was weird that it progressed through
It got bizarre.
three game states that had nothing to do with each other.
Yeah, and it got bizarrely repetitive in the end game, where you feel like you're solving the same puzzle over and over.
I felt like there were puzzles in Tunic where I wrote them down in a notebook, not because I needed to think about them, but just because I needed to have it all written down somewhere.
Yeah.
Like the whole, like I always, I think of the one with the windmill where they're like, here's the, meaning of the different like vein shapes or something.
Yeah.
But you can see like all of it. You just need to put in the input in the right order. So you can just basically write out the whole thing without doing any real puzzle solving.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I felt like that happened a lot in Tunic, so that's fair. I mean, for me, it was such a strong gimmick with the instruction booklet that I overlook a lot of the faults. But talking about it, it is you're reminding me of some of the frustrations.
I really did not like Tunic, and I see it's got like some appeal uh, from that whole aspect of it.
Nostalgia. I mean,
well,
having a lot of NES games and remembering those booklets, and it really was a very strong, like, you remember these fucking booklets? I'm like, I remember these booklets.
except I contend that they were not like they are in Tunic. For one thing, they did not have high-res screenshots of the game screen.
It's true.
It
would
did
have
not
been
that capacity, but
amazing if you ordered a collector's edition of Tunic that it comes like a
With
physical
the
copy
instruction booklet.
with a complete instruction booklet, so you would be unwittingly like able to just do essentially the whole game
yeah,
without interacting with the mechanic. I would love that.
that
would
would
be a great
kind of funny.
feature. Be a great throwback to like you know, something like the LucasArts games where their method of like piracy protection was putting a phrase in the booklet that like, you
Well,
know, you'd have to
that was
know.
super common. A lot of old DOS games, their copy protection stuff involves like looking up, you know, the third word on the fourth line of the 32nd page of the manual.
What was it? I don't know if you put the video or somebody put it in like one of the threads where it was a protection scheme where they would include like a little piece of like reticulated plastic, and then they display something on the screen that if you like looked at it through the lens, it would like merge the lines so you could make out like 3 characters that you'd have to enter.
Oh,
But it was like randomized.
I don't remember
It was-
that.
Oh, it was really crazy. It was like randomized what the characters would be. However, they did that, accomplished that. So you needed the lens, and then that was the copyright protection, was that you like had the lens, and then maybe there was something printed that you had to like refer to translate those.
There's a lot of similar stuff. I remember Starflight 2 came with a big, you know, fold-out map with all the stars on it, and you know the stars are all different colors because they're corresponding to different classes of stars. And it was on a grid, and the game came with this plastic overlay, and sometimes the space cops would pull you over and be like, hey, on this grid of the map, how many yellow stars are there, or whatever, and you'd have to be like, oh shit, time to get out the map and the little plastic guide. And,
I just remember the only one I remember specifically was like in Loom, having maybe it was like a song, like you just straight up didn't know the notes of the song without looking at it in the booklet or something like that.
Yeah, well, the one I always remember is the Goldbox SSI RPGs that had the like an actual code wheel, like
Oh jeez, yeah.
where it's got like, you know, holes for the different symbol types, and you have to rotate it to match up and then decode it. Such a pain in the dick.
Man, those are good times. I miss sometimes I really miss there's the creativity that is forced to problem solve instead of like, we're gonna slap, you know, we've just got DRM and it's you know, it does it's not really great for the players, but it's our way of ensuring piracy happens even though everything gets cracked immediately. Like I miss those novel solutions that then you interact. The Star, what'd you say it was? Star Commander or something?
Starflight 2.
Starflight 2. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
That's like a great way to be like, I mean, it's hilarious that a cop's like, hey.
Well, it's funny.
Yellow
It's funny
stars,
because it's literally like fourth wall breaking when the cops pull you over, because they're just like the rest of the game is pretty hard sci-fi as far as like different alien types and stuff like that, and you have to train your communicator or your communications officer to learn different languages. But then you just have like the space cops literally pull you over and are like, "You got any contraband? How many yellow stars are in this sector? All right, you're free to go."
It would be better if they phrased it as, hey, we're going to do a field sobriety test.
Right.
Pull out your space map and show us you can count the number of yellow stars and grid. They always said it's like, get out of your spaceship and walk this straight line while
Right.
reciting the number of yellow stars in grid 4C.
That would have been cool.
That would rule.
All right.
Space Team, yeah.
All right, I'm gonna put my foot down. This is a better game than Tunic overall.
That's
the
fine.
gimmick.
I don't disagree.
Beyond the gimmick, and in fact, I'm gonna say it's better than Ghost Song. I don't know if you even knew Ghost Song.
I only
came
played
out.
the demo. Yeah, I saw it came out, and I was not happy with the demo. Of it.
Boring, just boring.
I was bored to tears with the demo, and that's disappointing because I've had that on my wish list
Same.
for like
yeah.
5 years or however long since they fucking announced it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boring. Too many people talk to you, and a lot of people talk to you in Salt and Sacrifice, but you don't have to hear their voices, so that's a big plus for me.
Oh, is it all voice acted in Ghost Song?
Yeah, all voice
Oh
acted.
no.
Oh,
They don't have the
yeah.
budget for that.
No, they do not.
There's no way they had the budget for that. There's nothing worse than the like. What can we afford voice acting wise? It's not
Here's
great.
the thing. It was
That's all
fine.
that-
It was fine in the 90s, in the 80s, when the no voice acting budget meant that when they did voice act something, it was people in the office that were just like hamming it up or doing their best and sucking. But
Yeah.
nowadays, if you have no budget for voice acting and you put a lot of voice acting in, you get a lot of really shitty voice actors, professional voice actors, who are cheap because they suck.
They're cheap because they suck, but then they also do it remotely, and you end up with people with different acoustic setups, and you have like.
And
Oh, go ahead.
they're now making a career out of being a voice actor, so they think they're amazing, and they're just getting passed up for other reasons, for like Bayonetta 3.
And they make posts on various social media, or Reddit or whatever, like as a professional voice actor.
Well,
And
let's
it's
not
like,
get
you-
political here, Calixtus. I'm trying to make
You-
a career out of this.
Yeah, you are not. Like, as a professional voice actor, like, really, are you the person that sounded like they recorded, like, in a phone booth for,
I
for
had to.
Furry Adventures 6 or whatever?
I don't want you to talk about this because I had to browbeat you so much just to fix your fucking mic at the start of this.
Hey, that's Steam settings fault. I actually have, like, I have a mic for streamers, as it were, an Elgato, and then it has, like, a mixer software. But the problem is you have to, like, tell it to use the, like, mic output from the mixer software as opposed to the default device. So it's stupid, but that's not my fault. That's Elgato's fault.
All right. So, do you think Salt and Sacrifice can go above milk inside a bag of milk inside a bag of milk?
I don't know what that game is, but just based on the title, I would assume it's better than that. I don't
Ouch.
think.
That was the game that was made by Spambot.
Was it really? You're
Well,
pulling my leg. It's somebody who's like a Russian benzo addict made it, or what's your qualification for?
yeah, kind of. You can probably just assume that.
I'm gonna Google this. Look inside of a bag of milk. I'm gonna look at a screenshot of it and make my snap judgment.
How do you
For
one better?
sure.
How do you one better? I'm gonna pull up the actual mic clips of it.
Although I do see a Mega Milk T-shirt, which is pretty epic and for the win.
I've realized now I did not actually clip much of this.
I would. To your point about there is actual gameplay, and I'm looking at like pictures of this, and I can't discern that there's any actual gameplay in milk inside of a milk inside of a milk.
It's a
inside
very
bag.
short visual novel
Yeah.
about being
Um,
a mentally affected youth.
Yeah,
I almost said
that
challenged, but-
messaging does not resonate for me. God, no,
you think it
thank
goes
you.
higher than this, huh?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I have complaints about it, but especially knowing, or you talking through what your rubric is. I mean, I certainly think it hangs out below teardown, but in the same territory, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, Infra. Oh man, Infra's kind of a sore spot, huh?
I didn't play Infra. I don't know anything about Infra, really.
Infra's Sheslup's favorite game. It's the Half-Life 2 mod that is all about taking photos of infrastructural neglect.
Oh, it's that one. You were streaming that. That looked like an awesome game.
Oh, well, I don't know if you heard what I just said, but it is a Half-Life 2 mod where you take photos of infrastructural neglect, and it's like 30 hours long.
That's the one where you're in like a Belgian town or something, right?
I think
was it that one?
Nah, I think it's supposed to be
Dutch
Scandinavian.
I remember you playing that. I remember you going through. There was like a guy yelling at you. Yeah, you're going through you went through a room that caved in, and then you went through like an abandoned military thing or something. There was like that.
It's interesting.
The core concept of it was, I thought it was, to your point about interesting, like the core concept, if you say it out loud, sounds like a game that would not be even remotely interesting or like fun to watch. And when you were streaming it, I was like, I kind of actually want to watch more of this game, potentially even play it, but I would be fine, I think, watching somebody stream it. Like, the layout of this insane underground facility was interesting enough that it kept my attention.
Yeah, it's... I don't know. I think a good part of why I hate it is just the engine. I absolutely loathe the Source engine.
I see you do the fucking handle for the thing just falling off of it.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't actually go here, huh? Maybe if I rub it a little more. Nope.
But you can't be sure because that's the engine you're working
Well, later
with.
on, there's a clip where I did put something into a slot that it snapped into place in, except it did it wrong. It did it crooked, and it got stuck and didn't actually... I couldn't pull it back out to retrieve it and put it back in properly, and it wouldn't detect as having gone in. So I had to reload a save. And I think that's the point where I quit playing the game for like 6 months.
That'll do it. Yeah. No, if you have that kind of experience with the game, you're gonna, like, first impressions matter. Also, impressions where you feel like you've lost. I mean, I don't know if I've said it on one of your streams, but like, if I play a game and I think it's really cool and I play it for like 3 hours or something, and then it's a game that doesn't have like an autosave and I forget to save and I die, and that's a full 3 hours of progress lost, there's a very strong chance I will never play that game again, even if I think it's cool.
Yeah.
Because I'm so frustrated by like especially the first 3 hours of game almost always is like unskippable, exposition. So that's particularly bad.
I've rage quit stuff like that before, but not often. Usually I'm pretty...
I remember you eating shit to the minecart. Oh, it was so good.
The minecart's so ridiculous.
And I remember, I watched you do this segment.
Yeah.
You had to do it a number of times because there was like some goofiness with like the rubble hitting you.
Well, it's obnoxiously tight timing for some of this stuff.
Yeah.
Like way more than you'd expect.
If you're an infrastructure investigator in Scandinavia, nobody's testing your Olympic prowess here. That's not a reasonable test in the game.
Mark is just built different, dude.
Former triathlon.
Everything is fascinating, or that's interesting.
Jury, I miss Spambot as well.
No.
Although I'm not sure if he's actually dead or if he's just spam botting somewhere.
So I'm gonna assume you don't know much about Froggun either.
No,
I'm gonna
not
take
really.
I'm gonna take advantage of that uncertainty and put it right between Infra and Froggun. Because talking about Infra, there's stuff to talk about. I think more so than Salt and Sacrifice. Because it's just a more interesting game, and as much as it's less playable, it didn't grate on me nearly as much as like Tunic.
Yeah.
So
There you go. You got some more rankings done. What else
go.
you got left here?
That's not claimed. We we could pull a quick one and do Arkelos out from under everybody, but I'm not gonna do that.
No. No, I wouldn't feel good about that. Two, it's 3 a.m. where I am, and I need to go to sleep. But
well, yeah,
I
but
do want
probably
to talk about.
Tomorrow I'll do something.
I want to talk about Arkelos very, very badly with the crew, because I was posting a lot about that. Like
I'll probably do it Monday.
I'm a longtime fan of the Gothic series. Like, I bought Gothic 1 when it came out. Like, that wasn't something I got introduced to later. That was like an independent gaming find for me.
Yeah.
Well, I was I think that was in high school.
Yeah, I also played through Gothic independent of everything.
And playing through Gothic 2, like being really excited when Gothic 2 came out, and getting to play through it before Night of the Raven made the game, like better. The dragons, for instance.
Better.
The new content it added made the game better. The old content that it, quote, adjusted in a lot of ways made the game worse. Like, I think the main story quest progression is worse because the dragons are so much bigger of a pain in the ass to deal with. I mean, that's my biggest complaint.
Everything just has like flat magic resistance stacked on it in Night of the Raven.
I mean, we can talk about it with Arkelos, but it's like, I shouldn't be playing a paladin, right? Like, if I'm playing a paladin, and the only way I can kill the dragons is to use a summon demon scroll.
Yeah.
I don't think that meshes with like the fantasy of the game, that like, yeah, you're a paladin, you're using Innos' holy magic, but you are going to need Beliar to help you kill a servant of Beliar. You're going to need a demon to kill a dragon. It's a classic fantasy problem.
I mean, it's just like Ultima 8.
Did they do something like that in Ultima 8?
You're not aware of the tragedy of Ultima 8. It's not a story EA would tell you.
I've never been into the Ultima series. I know like nothing about the series. So
well, I'll just sum it up real quick. The whole point of the series up to Ultima 8 is you are the avatar of the virtues, and you do your best to uphold the virtues, which are kind of arbitrary things that Richard Garriott decided, because Richard Garriott is also a character in the Mystical Lands who got isekai'd over. And the avatar is, the ultimate personification of those arbitrary ideals, and you do certain things that maybe arguably aren't completely in line with them, because you're a player character and you can do whatever you want, but they try and get you to stay in that fantasy of you being basically a good guy. And then in Ultima 8, the whole point is that you get teleported to an evil land already conquered by the demons, and you have to summon demons and be a huge asshole in order to progress at all.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
And it's basically just you doing a bunch of shit that the Avatar would never ever do.
Right. Like, yeah, I mean, Gothic adheres so strongly to
it's a lot about here's what I'd say. I'd say that Gothic 1 and Gothic 2 are very much about sticking to the class fantasy of whatever you decide to go with for your character.
You will enjoy the game more if you do that. But I mean, one of the draws for me of the Gothics, you know, well, 1 and 2 are the true Gothics, and Gothic 3 lost it a lot, although it still has some. But like the amount of choices and how to resolve quests. You know, I always think of like there's one where it's like Gothic 2, a weed dealer at the farm encampment asks you to go to the city to like sell weed for him. And there's so many choices you can make about like whether you actually want to sell the weed.
Smoke it.
You could like, you can go around to individual people and sell the weed. You can go to the guard and say, I have a package of weed. You can choose whether or not to rat out the specific person. You can sell all the weed and then tell the guard you found a package of weed and rat out the person. And then when the guard asks you for the package of weed, you can say, I threw it into the harbor. Yeah. Like there's like all these choices for just individual layers of like how to resolve the quest, and like lots of opportunities for moral ambiguity. And then, I mean, the core thing that strikes me is with Gothic 1, the very first interaction you have is with, you know, series favorite Diego as you get off from being thrown into the mining colony. And Diego's like, oh, you've got like a letter from the king, like don't show that to everybody, like, you know, it gives you some opportunity to say like your name, and you're about to say it, and Diego's like, I don't care who you are, you're nobody, essentially. And like that establishes the whole basis of the game of you being like a nobody. You literally are the unnamed hero. So I mean, I think that it was so refreshing at the time. And then I mean, we'll get into Arkelos, but I think Arkelos is a better Gothic game than the Gothic games are.
It is.
Which is a crazy statement to me, and why I'm so excited to talk about it, because had I played it in 2022 instead of late 2021, I would probably say I think that's the best game of the year, and not, you know, like my favorite game of the year that I played, not Elden Ring.
Right.
It would be pretty easy for me to say, I think.
All right, so let's just...
Yeah, I won't get into that.
Krypton the Necrodancer, did you play that?
I was bad at it, and I bounced off of it after an hour.
Okay.
Scorn looked cool, hadn't played it.
Terrible.
It wasn't good? Okay.
No, Scorn was dog shit.
Okay. Don't even know what that is.
Madcap Mosaic? Oh my god, that's the game of the year.
Oh, is that the one you sent? I looked it up, and it looks like dog shit. I'm sure it's fun, but it looks awful. It looks so bad.
Oh, just as a quick aside to jury, yeah, Crypt of the Necrodancer's on here because I picked it up for Switch and played through all the story stuff.
Was Pentiment a card game or something?
No,
is it another deck builder?
Pentiment was Josh Sawyer's of Obsidian's Name of the Rose adventure game.
I don't think I know anything about that.
Well, keep it that way because it kind of sucks too.
Okay, I'm Googling.
And
I just want to see what it looks like.
And then Road Warden's an actually good visual novel / time management adventure game.
Okay, Pentiment has a very specific art style they're going for, which would not be pleasing to me to play a whole game like that. Nope. I like it in Kingdom Come as the map. I don't want to see it as the whole game. And Road Warden.
Road Warden's excellent.
Is this good?
It's good.
This looks... I check that out. I don't usually play games
that are
like
mostly
this.
Reading. Yeah, I don't either.
I'm not a reader. Well, like especially like
I'm
I
not
think of
literate.
What is it, like Dragon's Pass or whatever? That's kind of like this, where it's
King of Dragon's Pass.
Yeah, where it's kind of like choose your own adventure visual novel with some very light like RPG elements.
Nah, King of Dragon's Pass is a lot more like a strategy like simulation thing where you're managing a colony basically. Road Warden is more like an adventure thing.
I might check that out actually. That kind of looks neat.
A little bit of RPG. a lot of
love
reading
me
though.
an RPG.
Uh,
Oh, Triangle Strategy would be probably another one that I would. I mean, I'm surprised maybe you just didn't get a chance to play it, but it was a very good game this year.
yeah, I don't have it yet. I'm probably gonna start playing. What is it? Crystal Project? Crystal.
That is on my list to play. There's a very strong recommendation from somebody I know on that, and it looks cool. It looks
Yeah.
like a good game. So
I feel a little bad starting it because I've started Bug Fables, and I haven't
Bug
gotten
Fables.
around to finishing it.
the sequel to Bug Snacks. That is one that I played for an hour on Game Pass and went, boy, am I glad I didn't pay a dime for this.
Boy, am I glad I'm not nostalgic for Paper Mario.
I mean, I don't think I ever played Paper Mario. I played, Super Mario RPG, and then Paper Mario came out. I don't think I played it.
Paper Mario's
I've
awesome.
seen people like speed run it. I haven't played it, or the sequels. Sequel? Is there one sequel to it?
There's one real sequel, and then it turned into a whole franchise that has really nothing to do with the first two games, except for like slightly the artistic styling. Nintendo had no fucking idea what to do with the series after the second game, so they just keep
What's
like, making weird
the
shit
franchise that has nothing to do with it?
out of it.
Is that? Are you referring to like the Game Boy ones? I played like some Game Boy Mario RPGs.
No. The Game Boy Mario RPGs are okay.
Yeah, I kind of
No,
like
what I'm talking about is so there was Paper Mario for the 64, and then there was Paper Mario Thousand Year Door
Thousand
for
Year
the
Door,
GameCube.
yep.
Yeah, that was an
Okay.
awesome game. Great sequel, great follow up. And then they made Super Paper Mario for the Wii, which is actually like a platforming game for the most part.
Huh.
And it was okay, but it had a lot of really shitty parts in it, and people were like, this kind of sucks, honestly. Like, this is a really disappointing follow-up. And then they made Paper Mario Color Splash or something, and the only thing anybody ever heard of that was Zoe Quinn saying that some like minor joke in it was like referencing her pain. But nobody cared about it because nobody had ever played the game or even realized that it was out yet, except for her. So that kind of didn't
It's
matter.
not a good sign for a Nintendo IP game
Yeah.
to be like nobody even knows this exists.
And then there's a new one out called Origami King, which I don't think anyone's played either.
But it's like a Paper Mario game.
Apparently.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know with the first one, the art style didn't immediately grab me, so I wasn't like, oh, I must go out and play this. And then by the time the second one came out, I was like, well, I can't play the second one. I haven't played the first one. And you get like locked into that.
The first two are
mentality.
legitimately good games. I definitely recommend them. You don't really have to have played the first one to play the second one. They're pretty... they're not like a direct follow-up.
It's good because it honestly is easier to emulate the GameCube than
Yeah.
it is to emulate it in 64. Gotta love the stupid engine stuff that makes that a pain. No, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
Well,
All right. Go to
that's
bed.
all I got. Yeah, I'm gonna go to bed. I can't wait to talk about Arkelos, hopefully in the next day or two.
Yeah. I'll let you know if you're around, and if not, I'll laugh, and I'll make sure we record whatever we do. I'll try and record it. And that way,
Yeah,
people
I would
can-
like to see it and at least hear what people had to say. Although, I mean, if the timing is similar to like it was tonight, it should be feasible. But if it's like, hey, it's 3 a.m. your time, we're finally talking about Arkelos, I'll be like, that's great. I was dead asleep. Dang it.
Yeah. I'll do my best. I can't please
All right.
everyone.
No, that's true. All right, I'll see you later, man.
All right. Love you.
Love you too. Happy New Year.
Thanks.
See ya.
All right. Well, thank you, Jury, for showing up. Thank you, Calixtus, for talking for 3 hours since you made her listen. Good stream, lads. You all.